What's up, everybody? Good morning and a happy Wednesday to you all. A DK show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk studios. Appreciate you tuning in and making us a part of your start. If you're already up and at it, whether you're listening on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, available to stream online at sportstalk1051.com. You've got your Alexa devices. Just say, yo, Alexa, play WAYY. Download the Wisco Sports App. All that good stuff. YouTube video stream also up and rolling here this morning. So a very happy Wednesday as we are halfway through the work week. What do we have on our game plan for us this morning? What do we have on the game plan? We've got, maybe some Packers fans kind of happy. Last night's officially announced that Rich Bisaccia has stepped down from his duties as assistant head coach and special teams coordinator. So kind of late in the ball game here, but nonetheless, it's official that Matt LaFleur and the Packers will be looking for a new special teams coordinator. So we say kind of late in the ball game because you've got a lot of teams that with new coaching staffs pretty much got things set, except for maybe a couple here, but maybe some of the other options out there are not options anymore. But what are your thoughts, Packers fans, on the decision? Thumbs up, thumbs down, all that sort of stuff. But we'll hit that up, go through some of the comments from the release from last night and such, and potential names that maybe the Packers could look at for their new special teams coordinator. So we'll talk a little football with that news. Also on the docket, Badger basketball after a great week last week and moving up to number 24 in the rankings. They lose last night to the Ohio State Buckeyes, falling 86-69. Getting outplayed in both halves, but digging themselves in a hole in that first half, down 12 after the first half, and not able to climb out of it, not able to make another comeback victory like they've done so many times this year. But not a great loss. Granted, Ohio State, they're not a bad team. They're a bubble team, but coming off of last week, you'd like to have seen Wisconsin, continue to stack up some of those wins and such, but not in the cards last night as Blackwell and Boyd both just 14 points. Nolan Winter, 10. Carrington coming off the bench and contributing 20 points. But it was pretty much just that. I mean, Hayden Jones had 6. Haven't heard that name too much this year. So not a ton of production outside those 4 players. Badgers will be back at it this weekend as they're going to be taking on Iowa coming up on Sunday. Speaking of some college hoops, Marquette, they're going to be in action tonight as they take on 17th-ranked St. John's. So talk some hoops, talk some college hoops and such. Brewers owner Mark Attanasio chatting a little bit with the media yesterday as we've got full squad workouts ahead of our first spring training game coming up on Saturday. So we'll kind of go through some of the things that he discussed and such. Wide range of current ball club, how he views the current ball club, media deals, potential lockouts, maybe even, transition from himself to his sons for ownership and all that stuff. But he did kind of make a note that, when the Brewers traded Caleb Durbin, got a call from Bud Selig, saying what's going on, what's the game plan, what are the guys doing, and sort of thing. So wasn't just fans that had that question mark of what the Brewers were potentially doing. He had others out there too. So, but we'll go through some of the comments from Mark Attanasio yesterday, chatting with the media and such, as now we've got full squad workouts here for the Brew Crew. So. Baseball talk coming at you. It is a Wednesday, so it is Am I Wrong Wednesday, presented by Mike Star Market. Give me your sports takes, give me your sports opinions, where you would say, am I wrong for saying this? Am I wrong for thinking that? And share it with the rest of us, and I'll throw it out there for the rest of the listeners to chime in. So It is also a Whiteboard Wednesday, so we're actually going to get to that here coming up in the first hour. So got that on the docket as well. So that's your game plan for this morning. Should we get right into it? Pitter patter. Let's get at her, shall we? Got Packers stuff to be talking about. Rich Bisaccia out, stepping down. Not, key phrase, key wording in there. Stepping down, not retiring, not fired, it sounds like. I mean, you listened to Goody's presser a couple weeks ago, and it sure sounded like they thought that Rich Bisaccia would be with the team going forward this season. But nonetheless, that is not the case for the Packers this year. And, special teams coordinator, it's kind of hard to kind of maybe figure out, okay, who to bring in, right? It's not maybe a defensive coordinator or in some cases offensive coordinator where we know a lot of the names. Rich Bisaccia was a name that we knew when he was first hired by Green Bay because a lot of Packers fans obviously wanted Rich Bisaccia because he was coming off of a interim head coaching job with the Raiders and such, so he was well known at that point. There's a couple of well-known special teams coordinators out there, but it's out of the three coordinators between defense and offense, it's probably third on a tier where a lot of fans kind of know, some of the options here. So you're probably looking at maybe assistant special teams coordinators from other teams in that. And remember, one of Green Bay's assistants took the head special teams coordinator job with the Cleveland Browns. So it looks like it's going to be an outside hire for the Packers, but we'll kind of maybe throw out a potential couple names and such, especially this late in the game. Matt LaFleur might have to go through the Rolodex and go through some of his connections to maybe find that coordinator and such. So, but let's open up things, talking some green and gold and talking some football here this morning. We'll take our first break and then we'll get the leadoff going coming up after these quick words. When it comes to quality meats, you don't want to guess. You go to the experts, and that's at Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire, where you're not just buying meat, you're buying an experience. Hand-cut steaks, fresh ground beef, house-made brats and sausages, thick-cut chops done exactly the way you like them. This is your neighborhood butcher shop where quality comes first and service still matters. Planning a cookout, stock it up for the week, or looking for that perfect steak for dinner tonight? Well, hey, you need to stop in at Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire and taste the difference that a real butcher makes. Mike's Star Market, fresh, local, done right. All right, let's get things rolling here on the leadoff. Last night, the news coming down and officially made by the Packers. Bear with me, I'm still recovering from a little head cold and such, so bear with me here a little bit as try to get the voice back fully and such. But officially made by the Packers last night, Rich Bisaccia stepping down as assistant head coach and special teams coordinator as part of the release from the Packers yesterday. Rich Bisaccia, a couple quotes here. After taking some time to reflect over the last few weeks, I have made the decision to step down as assistant head coach and special teams coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. I am incredibly grateful to Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, Ed Policy, and Mark Murphy for their unwavering trust and support throughout my entire time in Green Bay. I'm also thankful to the players for their consistent work and relentless effort to improve every single day. I would like to thank everyone in the organization for their dedication and commitment. The people in this building make it a special place to work. I also want to thank our fans and the people throughout Green Bay, throughout the Green Bay community for their passion and love for this team. Coaching for the Packers was truly an honor, and I will always be grateful for my time. I look forward to whatever is next for me and my family and wish nothing but the best for everyone in the organization. So it sounds like it's not a retirement. It sounds like maybe taking the year off and kind of reassessing everything and getting back into the swing of things possibly for next year, right? That's kind of what it feels like. Matt LaFleur, part of the release, said, quote, "While we are disappointed to lose a person and a coach as valuable as Rich, we respect his decision to step down from the Packers. Rich was a tremendous resource to me and our entire coaching staff, who had a profound impact on our players and our culture throughout the building." So, again, you listened to Goody's presser a couple weeks ago. It sure sounded like that the thought process was that Rich Bisaccia was going to be back in Green Bay. And, you listen to Bisaccia, taking the last few weeks here. I got to imagine that maybe this was partially thought that a possibility, like LaFleur or the Packers partially knew that this was a possibility, that this could happen, that Bisaccia was going to step down and such, or was this a mutual sort of I don't think it was necessarily, I don't know. I don't want to get all conspiracy theory-esque and say, was this potentially mutual where, save face, hey, we're not going to fire, but we're going to, you want to, say you stepped out and kind of save face a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. By the way, we are going to talk with Rob Domofsky tomorrow from ESPN, so we'll get the experts' thoughts on this coming at your way tomorrow morning. But perfect timing, too. Actually, we had this planned up before the Rich Bisaccia news. So, but the timing of this is just kind of, I don't know if weird is the right word or interesting. I don't know. It's late in the ball game. It's really late in the ball game, and the Packers now have missed out on some potential options for some of the better special teams coordinators that are available. Let's be real. It's February 18th right now. You got a lot of coaching staffs that are officially official, except for maybe a couple. Raiders, I know, still maybe putting together their full staff because they waited for Kubiak after the Super Bowl and such. But for the most part, a lot of these staffs are put together. So maybe some potential free agent special teams coordinators are already picked up and on new staffs. So a little bit behind the eight ball here now you're probably looking at, assistant special teams coordinators that are out there for teams. You're probably looking at those options. And if that's the case, I mean, there's a couple names here that you can kind of maybe take a look at. I don't know if Chase Blackburn would be an option. Now, Chase, again, I'm trying to look at, I'm not saying these are the guys I necessarily want. And again, this is special teams coordinators are not as popular in terms of names and such, like a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator. It's not going to be like, Jonathan Gannon. Like, everybody knew Jonathan Gannon and such, a former head coach, and we knew all these other Jimmy Leonard and all that. So they don't have the name power. Rich Bisaccia had the name power when he was hired by Green Bay because he was coming off of interim head coach with the Raiders and such. And yeah, a lot of Packers fans really wanted Rich Bisaccia for special teams coordinator, and they got him. So, but there's a couple of names out here. Again, I don't know if these would be options. I don't know if they would full on be options in that, but the Rams had fired their special teams coordinator during the season, and that was Chase Blackburn. He is now an assistant special teams coordinator or special teams coach, with the Atlanta Falcons. Could he potentially, if that, I'm throwing some names out there. I know probably everybody's like, don't get a guy that was just fired last year as a special teams coordinator during the season to bring him on. I know, but I'm trying to find maybe some guys who have some special teams coordinating experience in that. But that's somebody. Remember Chase Blackburn? He was a linebacker for the Giants, I think it was too, right? Yeah, but so that's somebody who has some experience, and he was actually the special teams coordinator for Carolina from 2018 to 2021. So, I mean, he's got a couple of, tenures as special teams coordinator. Another one out there might be a guy by the name of Cole Anderson. And for our Whiteboard Wednesday, that was the name I threw down there. Now, Cole Anderson, he is currently the 49ers assistant special teams coordinator. Cole Anderson has 1 year of experience of being a special teams coordinator, and that was with the Tennessee Titans. He was over there for 1 year for 2024 after being an assistant special teams coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. And so when Callahan obviously went over to the Titans, he was from Cincinnati, brought over Cole Anderson as his special teams coordinator, but only lasted a year. And this past year was an assistant special teams guy with the 49ers. So is that an option? Obviously, you try to find maybe some connections to a Matt LaFleur. Obviously, you got a guy with Blackburn who came from the Rams. I'm sure he's, getting the input from his buddy Sean McVay. And then obviously Cole Anderson with the 49ers connection with Matt LaFleur and such. But, those are just a couple names potentially out there because they're not going to be able to pluck somebody from, it's already got a special teams coordinator job. Now, is there somebody that's at the college level that they could? Obviously, Matt LaFleur and the Packers have dabbled and brought over some college coaches and such. Possibly. Again, that's something that I wouldn't completely shut down. So don't be surprised maybe if it is somebody from the college side of things. I don't know. But something to kind of keep tabs on potentially here. Another name that's, I've got a list of some other names here. You've got Marquise Williams. He was the former special teams coordinator under Raheem Morris with the Atlanta Falcons. And maybe that's a potential special teams coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, actually, even a little bit before Raheem Morris got there. But he was the Atlanta Falcons special teams coordinator from 2021 to 2025, assistant special teams coach with the Detroit Lions from 2019 to 2020. So that could potentially be an option. Just kind of scrolling through some other options here too. Todd McMahon or McMahon. Is that so another, again, a guy, a veteran. Yeah. He is, let me just bring up his background here. Special teams. Because he was just let go by the Raiders. So boy, he's made a few stops here as special teams coordinator. If Green Bay elects to maybe go with the veteran route, he was with the Raiders for 3 years, Denver Broncos for 3 years, the Colts for 4 years, the Chiefs for a year, and then the Rams for a couple of years. So, I mean, he has been a special teams coordinator for various teams in the NFL from 2009 until 2025. So if they decide to go maybe a little bit of the veteran route here, that's an option. And remember, he was fired by Pete Carroll during the season as well. So that was, I mean, odds are, I don't know for sure, but odds are they're probably going to hire a special teams coordinator that was fired at some point. So I don't think you can necessarily look at that as a knock on them. But will they go full-on experience? A lot of experience in this case. Maybe somebody's still a little fresh, still a little young. There's options. There's definitely options out there. So another one is the former special teams coordinator from the Buccaneers. Is it Thomas Begahey? I don't think he's been hired by anybody either at this point. So he's got kind of an extensive background as well. He was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the last couple of years as their special teams coordinator. He was a Giant special teams coordinator for 5 years, it looks like. Carolina's special teams coordinator, San Francisco's special teams coordinator, the Jets special teams coordinator for 2014. So again, that's another highly experienced special teams coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see which route Matt LaFleur goes. So, all right, we got to take a quick break. We'll talk more football. We've got hoops as well to hit up, some Brewers talk. Mark Attanasio chatting a little bit with the media yesterday. What did he have to say? A wide range of topics from the owner yesterday. We'll go through some of those comments as well. So, all right, quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Looking for reliable auto service in Eau Claire? Well, hey, you've got some options, and both of them are right here at AJM Automotive. With 2 convenient locations in Eau Claire, AJM Automotive makes it easy to get the care your vehicle deserves. Whether it's routine maintenance, brake work, engine repairs, diagnostics, you can trust AJM Automotive. Friendly experts, honest advice, quality service that gets you back on the road safely. If you want some more details on services, hours, specials, and more, make sure you're checking out AJM Automotive's Facebook page and visit their website, ajmautomotiveservices.com, for everything you need. AJM Automotive, dependable service, done right here in Eau Claire. You know, I had seen somebody pose the question, is this special teams coordinator hire more important for Matt LaFleur to get right than the defensive coordinator hire? I don't know. I get it, the issues with special teams and such, but more important than the defensive coordinator hire, I don't know. It's a big hire, no question. I think it's a big hire, but defensive coordinator, when you factor in what they've got on defense and some of the maybe the holes on the defensive side here too, I still think defensive coordinator would be the bigger hire for Matt LaFleur. So, but that's just me. I've seen that question being posed out there and such. I don't know if I'd say special teams coordinator hire is more important than defensive coordinator at this point. But anywho, we'll get back to some more football talk and some more Packers chat with, Packers now looking for a new special teams coordinator. Let's switch gears here a little bit to baseball, as we are full squad workouts now in spring training. We got our first spring training game coming up this weekend. Mark Attanasio, Brewers owner, chatting with the media yesterday. And, wide range of topics discussed, from current ball club to media deals to potential lockout and such. But not going to go through all of the comments from Mark Attanasio, but from the piece here on the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, a little Q&A with him. One of the questions he was asked was, what is your take on the team after an active few weeks on the personnel front heading into camp? Mark saying, quote, "So look, we're really encouraged for so many reasons. The energy in the clubhouse is palpable. This will be season 22 for me, so I could tell you when it's good, bad, or indifferent. We're very good. It's youthful energy. There's young players who have had success together at whichever levels. It all starts here, and I know every team is hopeful now, and we're hopeful this year. But look, we know how hard it is because we've been there, done that. We've won 3 divisions in a row with the national media focused so much on the coasts. It's a lot of competition in our division, and anybody who thinks seriously they could go take a bat and hit against Paul Skeens, we take nothing for granted, but we feel very good this year." Asked about his take on the Central Division, because it seems like it's, at least on paper, it looks to be improved. Mark Attanasio saying, quote, "The division is competitive and getting more competitive, and I think the Reds showed everybody last year that you can, with the new playoff system, and get into the playoffs with 83 wins. Now, it's not always going to be that. We did the math on it. When we put the change in, we thought you'd need to be at 85, but it happens, and so that encourages teams. I think the Pirates are seeing a bunch of young guys win, and it's really nice to have an opposing manager say, I want to play like those guys. And so they're starting to pick players that play like our guys. They've got some good pitchers. Joe Torre once told me, which I've quoted too many times, it's very hard to win a Major League Baseball game, very hard. Think about all the things that have to go right to win." So, in terms of a lockout and such, not a whole lot that Mark Attanasio had to say, but said it's way too early to say from my perspective. It's not even pregame. We understand the interest and everybody has to come up with content, but it's way too early to say. We saw what happened this morning with the rumors of the head of the Players Association, Tony Clark, which he is now resigning. And I certainly was surprised to see that. So you have to let things play out. You can't go to the end of the movie. You have to watch the whole movie play. Asked about the the Caleb Durbin trade, he said, quote, "I think maybe the hardest thing about Matt's job is he has to make hard decisions. This player not only super performed above expected, but in a very tough series against the Dodgers, he super performed there too. He was a fan favorite all the way up to Commissioner Seelig. The first call I got when this got announced, by the way, was from Commissioner Bud Seelig. What are they telling you?" he said. So, yeah, that's a really hard decision. The easy decision is to just go as she goes, right? And just because you're willing to make a hard decision, it doesn't mean it's going to be the right decision, because he's going to hit in Fenway. We've got guys with ceiling, including David Hamilton, that nobody really talks about. He's really fast. Speed doesn't take a day off, and he's a great defender, so we'll see. Asked about Pat Murphy's contract status. Mark, keeping it short, saying everybody loves Murph. There's no doubt. I've got a picture of him here on his phone with Commissioner Seelig. The players are completely engaged, but we don't talk about contracts. We do talk about stability. We've had a huge amount of stability here, and that's the goal. So just, again, a few comments from Mark Attanasio yesterday as full squad workouts and such getting underway here for the Brewers. And, you know, I don't think there's really anything earth-shattering or like, holy moly, you know, sort of things from Mark. I mean, it's honestly, for 22 years now, with him being, you know, by the way, that kind of surprise, like, holy moly, 22 years and such. But that's the point where, yeah, I kind of used to Mark Attanasio's comments, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. And again, I don't think there was a whole lot there, and nothing like, oh, what does he mean by that? You know, you try to pin holes, or you try to, you know, okay, try to find a certain comment and such. What did he mean by that? I didn't get that. I didn't get that sense from Mark Attanasio yesterday. So, but yeah, our post-glass Amir 715 Speaks poll question that we posted up a couple days ago, wasn't able to get to it yesterday because I was out, but, you know, we had asked a couple, you know, what do you think is the biggest storyline following, you know, the trades and such, now that we got full squad workouts and we're going to have games coming up here in just a couple days? 75% of you said it was the third base competition. And what makes the acquisition of Luis a little bit interesting is, you know, the Brewers, we know, pride themselves on defense, run prevention. And with their new third baseman, it's with Luis coming in, he's not known really well as a good defender, especially when he has to play third base. This was from Jack Stern. The Brewers love good defense. Public metrics grade Luis as a poor defender, particularly at third base. Here's what Matt Arnold said about the role Matt Erickson played in the Brewers' evaluation of Luis and how they think he'll help him improve in the field. Quote, the first thing he did when he came into workout yesterday at 2 o'clock was take ground balls with Matt Erickson. And just knowing that Matt Erickson's here and what he's been able to do with a lot of our infielders was somebody we talked a lot about before we acquired him. Having those tools and ingredients and having Matt as part of the evaluation process saying, hey, I've seen this guy. I think he has a chance to be really good here. And we believe in Matt Erickson making these guys better. And this kind of comes on the heels, too. This was from our friend Hunter Baumgart, where he posted a video that said, you know, Caleb Durbin gave Matt Erickson his flowers and gave him a lot of credit for his performance over at third base as well. So, you know, we talk a lot about Chris Hook and the pitching department for the Brewers here. This might be another coach that we really keep tabs on, because Caleb Durbin, again, remember last year he was pretty new to third base. more of a second baseman, had some time at short, but, heading over to third base was something, and he, I think, blew the doors off the expectations over at third base. He was pretty, and I think he got better as the season progressed. So maybe kind of keep this name in the back of your mind is Matt Erickson. And he's now the third base coach, but he works with the infielders for the Brewers too. And that's probably where Jet Williams going to be working a lot with him over at third base. I did see Jet Williams yesterday, some of the clips from the Brewers taking some grounders over at third and such. So they're definitely, I honestly feel like it's going to be very similar to the path that Caleb Durbin had last year at third base. Maybe not as quick for Jet Williams as it was for Caleb Durbin, because the Brewers are getting next to nothing out of their duo production of Oliver Dunn and Vinny Capra at third base. If these two veterans, Hamilton and Luis, are having production at third base, then maybe it pauses or delays Jet Williams coming up to the major league level at that point. But I honestly feel like that's kind of the path that the Brewers are going at right now. And I don't know, I still feel like maybe Jet Williams is going to be the future starting shortstop for this ball club. But if they're not getting any sort of production from their third base to open up the season the first month or two, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a very similar game plan as to what it was last year when they called up Caleb Durbin then too. All right, we got to take our final break and we'll wrap up the first hour. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. When it comes to fresh, convenient, and delicious, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has got you covered. From farm fresh produce and premium meats to bakery favorites and ready-to-go meals, everything you need is under one roof. Planning dinner tonight? Grabbing lunch on the run? Stocking up for the week? Hy-Vee makes it easy. A store that feels like your neighborhood market, just bigger. Plus, with daily and weekly deals and seasonal specials, there's always something new to discover. Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, where there is a helpful smile in every aisle. Don't forget, today is Wednesday, so give me your sports takes, your sports opinions. It's Mike Star Market. Am I wrong Wednesday? Am I wrong for saying the Packers special teams will be better without Rich Bisaccia? That's an example. I'm not saying that, but that's kind of what we're looking at here on our traditional Am I Wrong Wednesday. So best ones, good ones, I'll read. Just hit me up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Or you can also hit us up on the YouTube video stream. Badger basketball last night after a fantastic week last week and opening up this week, back in the top 25 in terms of rankings. Well, they fell. They lost last night to Ohio State, 86-69. It's not like I don't want to make it sound like Ohio State's a bad team. They're a bubble team. I mean, they need some good wins to improve their resumes and such. But for Wisconsin coming off those two big time wins and maybe really trying to secure their spots in the bracket, you hate to see that. So Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology came out yesterday morning. And he had Wisconsin as a 7 seed. So I had him as a 7. I don't know if this would drop him back down to an 8. But, yeah. He has them as a 7 play, number 10, Texas A&M. If they were to win that, they would go up against Houston in a potential matchup in a round of 32 to go to the Sweet 16. So, but you look at last night, and they were awful. Again, a team that lives by the 3, you're going to die by the 3. Well, the Badgers shot 27% from 3, 7 of 26. Whereas Ohio State, in fuego. 52% from 3. 54% overall from the field. Maybe it was just one of those games last night where Badgers just couldn't stop the 3. They couldn't make a 3. They couldn't buy a bucket from deep. Whereas Ohio State, they were pretty darn solid from there. So, but it's a disappointing loss. I know Greg Gard said after the game they weren't aggressive on both ends of the basketball, defense and offense to begin the game and throughout the game. So, I mean, they better become aggressive into these final 5 games that they got coming up here. They got Iowa on, is it Saturday, Sunday, the 22nd? What's the 22nd? Sunday. So they're at home against Iowa. Then they're gonna be on the West Coast here for a couple games, Oregon and Washington. Then back home March 4th versus Maryland. For me, I think you got to win those 4. I want the expectations and I want the goals high for this. Win those 4, get to 22 wins. And then you got your last final season or final regular season game going up against Purdue, which just fell to Michigan last night. But Purdue jumped up into the top 10 in the rankings. Probably going to fall a little bit outside that. But that's going to be at Purdue. So that's going to be a tough one too. So, all right, let's wrap up the first hour. Say good morning to Morgs.
Are you on the other side of the crud that's going around, or are you in the throes of it?
I think I'm better than what I was yesterday and even Monday afternoon.
Okay, so on a 1 to 10, where's this one hitting? 1 being like, no biggie, and 10 being like, I never want to exist again.
I'm probably at like a 4.
Okay, so you're on the...
It's draining out now.
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
That stage. Yeah.
Well, you usually do your Grind My Gears Tuesday, but since you weren't here, I thought you might have some late action gears to grind. I have a couple of questions for you. You can chime in on. Cell phones in schools. What do we... No?
No.
Zero.
Zero.
Okay, but think about you in the workplace. What if we had no cell phones in the workplace? You wouldn't
Part of my
exist.
job.
Okay.
It's not a part of a student's
Now
job.
I tend to agree with you, but just for the sake of devil's advocacy, what about staying in touch with your kids so you know where they're at if practice is running late or if you know anything that's going on that way?
No, I had to use the school phone when I was a kid for pickup for practice and such. So no.
No schools,
No.
no phones, period.
No.
What about homework? Waste of time?
Now, see, funny, my grandma's never been a believer in homework. She's always said
I
that.
think it's an older generation thing. Yeah.
But my kid, he's in third grade. He hasn't had homework.
No homework?
No.
Does he get it done in school or do they
That's
just
what
not
I
give-
ask, and I don't know if that's the case, but like he, outside of like projects and such. So
No, are you saying that you kind of would like to see him have some homework?
no,
Like bring
but
something
I think
home, buddy?
I don't want him asking me for help because I'd probably get it wrong. So
There are certain subjects I'm glad Siggy doesn't bring home. Like she happens to be good at math, which is a relief because I'm not.
Yeah.
And so she just kind of skates by and gets that all done at school, which is good. What about school uniforms?
no.
Zero?
No.
Because fashion is an extension and you should be able to like support your teams or whatever you want to wear? Or don't you think it would take the guesswork out?
Sure. I just against it. No.
Would you find it a relief to wear the same thing to work like if we had a dress code here?
No.
You don't like that?
No.
But you don't have to think about it.
Just because it'd be easy?
Yeah.
No.
Well, for clothes, people that don't think about clothes. Okay, so then how about celebrity role models, good or bad for kids?
I think good to if they, to an extent, like for, let's say, a pro athlete. Yeah, I want to be like Giannis or something like that.
Okay, but are you also going to start going down that slippery slope to be like, when we were younger, we had better role models? Like everything seems to be romanticized for back in the day?
I don't know if I'm that way. I guess I view it more towards if they want to be a pro basketball player because they idolize a Giannis or something like that. That's how I kind of view
Okay,
it.
let's go top three. Let's go basketball, baseball, and football. Your opinion, your top three or your own personal role models for each sport over the years?
Oh, over the years?
Over the years. Like, do you go Jordan?
Man, that one's tough just knowing a little bit more of his backstory.
Right, but
and such.
that's why the question is tricky. Is it a
I'll
good idea?
I'll go Kobe, although he had some off the court stuff too. Boy,
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
everyone
Peyton Manning
does.
because I'm running out of time.
Okay.
I've only got 2 seconds. I have to think about it.
Oh, cop out.
All right, here we go. Second hour kicking off right now on this Making the Turn Wednesday, February 18th. Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you joining us and participating through the Shoe Doctors bullpen line or the YouTube chat. I just saw NFL sent out a message. The 49ers are going to be playing in a Mexico game this year. So one of the participants in that game. So I feel like they've been announcing some of these international games kind of quickly this year and such. Again, they don't have what week it is or the opponent, but all right, their 49ers are going to be hosting a regular season game in Mexico City. So, the Packers don't play the 49ers, do they? Packers, do they? 2026. I can't remember. Is it the Rams? I got to double check it. The Packers. Yeah, they're away at the Rams. Okay, so just I couldn't remember for the sake of me. So, anywho, all right. Speaking of the Packers, we opened up the first hour talking a little bit about the news that Rich Bisaccia has stepped down as special teams coordinator and assistant head coach. Your thoughts on the move? Were you on the side that you wanted a new special teams coordinator? Maybe you don't think it'll make a difference at this point because it's an organization philosophy. They need better players and such. But where are you at on this? Or maybe you're like, what took so long? It's to me that's the one thing that kind of stands out here a little bit is kind of late in the ball game and such. But nonetheless, it's. Matt LaFleur is going to be looking for a new special teams coordinator almost at the end of February. So, but we'll kind of see where it goes. But I think special teams, it's got to be a hand-in-hand thing. You can bring in a coordinator and you can bring in a coach in that. And yes, philosophy and understanding the rules and such. But at the same time, it's got to be front office, general manager and such. Have to be committed to finding some players that can perform at special teams. I go back to Goody's comments in his season-ending presser from a couple weeks ago where he said that he felt like they've prioritized special teams more during his tenure than Ted Thompson's tenure. He said that Ted, never really brought in players just for special teams. And Goody thinks that they've done a better job of bringing in players, maybe with the idea of playing special teams. I think one year they really did that. Rudy Ford and was it Sean Levitt, a couple safeties that they brought in, and Rudy Ford ended up playing, because of injuries, some more on defense and such. But initially, those guys were brought in for special teams coverage units and such. So, but I don't know. I think it's got to be a hand-in-hand type of thing. Bring in your special teams coordinator, but also give them some tools to work with, the proper tools to work with and such. So, kicking-wise, McManus, he still has to make his kicks when he's out there. He still has to get the job done. Daniel Whalen, he's, to me, I think, one of the better punters in this entire league. So, yeah, I just hope that he can continue to ascend. The biggest thing here, can we find a returner? If Keyshawn Nixon isn't going to do it anymore, can we please just find a returner? Somebody that can at least be a little bit of a threat. Punt, kick return, I don't care. And then can we just not get anything blocked up front anymore? That would be great. That would be fantastic. So, I think part of that is the personnel that you bring in to play special teams too. So we talked some Brewers as well, and we'll get back to some more Brewers chats with Mark Attanasio making some comments yesterday, talking to the media as we've got full squad workouts for a spring training game coming up this weekend for the Brew Crew. So kind of seems like the team that they got their team full. I don't think there's going to be any more off-season moves and such with this, but because it feels like pitching-wise, they're going to be set. They've got some depth now at third base with some veterans. So it kind of feels like this is what we're going to roll with now. Last year we had the Jose Quintana signing while they were in spring training. I don't know. I feel like we're this is the group we're going to roll with unless there's some injuries and such. But we'll go back to some more of the comments from Mark Attanasio when he chatted with the local media yesterday, as he normally does during spring training and such. So Badger basketball falling last night after getting into the top 25 earlier this week after their fantastic week last week. Now they're probably going to drop out of the top 25. They were 24th, ranked 24th just a couple days ago, but falling last night to the Ohio State Buckeyes. They'll be back at it this weekend going up against Iowa. Marquette, meanwhile, they've got a tough game going up against 17th ranked St. John's tonight. So speaking of college hoops, locally wise, Division III wise, as we start to wrap up the regular season here for college basketball, the Blue Golds, they're going to be taking on Platteville. So Platteville, the men's team is going to be home. The women's team is going to be on the road. For UW Stouts, and Blue Golds, they're going to need they got to take care of their business, but they may need some help too just to get to the conference tournament and hopefully make some noise there. But first things first, they got to take care of their business. But Stouts basketball is going to be taking on UW River Falls. We also got WIAC championships for swimming and diving going on today as well. So I know we had some hockey prep-wise last night, playoff hockey for our high school teams and such. But just let me bring up the brackets and such. Of course, my computer just froze up here and such. But, yeah, I know we had some hockey going on and getting set for – well, I shouldn't say getting set. Officially, underway for the prep playoff hockey season as well. So, let me what do we got here? Oh, I thought we had some breaking news. Never mind. Thought we had some breaking Twitter stuff. But, no, nothing that affects the Packers. A couple texts here. Brandon's Bob saying, am I wrong? When the Badgers get ranked, they always lose the next game. Kind of feels that way, doesn't it, at times? Yeah, kind of feels that way. Josh says, no way is special teams coordinator more important than defensive coordinator. I would agree, too. I know some people have been kind of making that case, but nah, I don't think both are important, but I'd still put a little bit more emphasis on defensive coordinator and such. So, really quick, hockey-wise, Memorial Division I, they took down Wisconsin Rapids. For boys hockey, Chi High defeated Ram Hockey 3-1. Tomahawk defeated Eau Claire North 7-1. New Richmond also picking up a win in hockey over DC Everest. So just wanted to throw those out there in scores and such. But couple more texts here coming in. This is from Ben. Ben saying, I don't think it's going to matter who the Packers hire as their new special teams coordinator unless Brian Gutekunst adds players that can actually play special teams. Am I wrong for thinking that? I don't think you're wrong. I think it goes hand in hand. Bring in a special teams coordinator. I mean, they're going to have to, obviously. But find – got to find some players, too. And that's the tricky part. How much do you want to have – how much do you want those players to – or how much do you want to spend the offseason in finding players to bring in just to focus on special teams? It's a fine line, right? It's definitely a fine line. But I think it's a combination of coaching them the right way, coaching them up, blocking, scheming, but then just finding players that can contribute at that level. Finding a guy that can be a returner, not a Romeo Dobbs back there returning punts. Maybe Savion Williams can develop into a kick returner. But, man, it'd be nice if they could just have somebody on that roster that is your designated returner. And I know there's more with the special teams issues than just the returning game, but it feels like they would benefit more from finding that designated guy that could be your kick returner and punt returner. No offense, but Emmanuel Wilson back there, no. When you get to a playoff game and then, Josh Jacobs, you're throwing him back there to try to get a return, you know you have issues with your return game. Josh Jacobs should not be returning kicks. That's out of the question. I don't want to see that ever again. That's something that they got to try to address and try to figure out and try to find. Maybe it's through the draft. Maybe it's in free agency. I don't know. But find a returner, please. So we'll talk some more football coming up a little bit later on and such. Definitely want to get back to some more Brewers chats as well. I'd be kind of curious. So I made this a post-Glass and Mirror 715 Speaks poll question the other day. Wonder if this would change after last night's game. But we had asked, out of just this list of Wisconsin coaches, where do you rank Greg Gard? Between Greg Gard, Pat Murphy, Matt LaFleur, Luke Fickell, Doc Rivers. 63% said number 2. 26% said 3. 9% did say number 1. So ahead of Pat Murphy. I think Pat Murphy probably would have gotten the majority. 1% did vote for 4. So one person looks like they did vote for number 4, which Jake commented saying that means you're putting either Fickell or Rivers ahead of Greg Gard. So I got somebody there that's not still a fan of Greg Gard. And this was before yesterday's game too. So, all right, we'll take a quick break. Plenty more to get to, though, on this Wednesday morning. Stick around. I want to hear from you. Send me some texts. Send me some comments on the video stream. We'll get to all those coming up after these few words. Accidents happen. Getting back on the road shouldn't be stressful, though. At Superior Auto Body in Eau Claire, you'll find experienced technicians, quality craftsmanship, and service that you can trust. From collision repair and dent removal to full paint work and insurance coordination, they handle the details so you don't have to. They'll restore your vehicle the right way, safely, professionally, and with attention to every detail. When your vehicle needs extra care, choose a team that puts quality first. That's Superior Auto Body in Eau Claire, bringing your vehicle back to life one repair at a time. And Superior Auto Body, our partners for Backyard Dreams. And a big thanks for Superior Auto Body for joining us to be partners of our Backyard Dreams program. We'll get back to some more of your texts as they are flying on through here this morning. You can hit us up at 715-830-1912 or on the YouTube chat as well, saying, thanks for the messages from Joe and Zach on there saying, hope you're feeling better. Appreciate that, guys. So, all right, let's get back to some more football talk here this morning. Talk a little green and gold. Obviously, in the first hour, we chatted quite a bit about Rich Bisaccia stepping down as special teams coordinator and assistant head coach, and now Matt LaFleur will be looking for that new special teams coordinator. Joe, were you maybe a little surprised that it took this long for a decision to kind of happen? And I know they said that he's stepping down and such, and reading the release from the Packers yesterday, Bisaccia said he took a few weeks to kind of think about it, but a little late in the ballgame. Does that surprise you at all that it was this late to make that decision?
No, I think given how LaFleur talked about Rich Bisaccia and how much respect some of the players on the team talked about Rich Bisaccia, I think that this was clearly a case where LaFleur said, hey, take a few weeks and think about it. Bisaccia, I believe, 65 years old, been in Green Bay for 4 years. Obviously, Bisaccia, has got to hear the whispers, and Bisaccia knows that his unit did not reach the bar or the level that any coach would like to see. And so I'm sure, he started doing some self-reflection. I think he looked at where he's at with his career, and I think this was very simply just Matt LaFleur giving respect to someone who he admires and respects immensely. And so, I think it's just a matter of taking the time to do it right. And again, I do think this was Bisaccia's decision. Now, could LaFleur have had a conversation with Bisaccia saying, hey, if you are coming back, things need to change. We need to shore up some areas. Again, looking back at specific games, obviously you had special teams gaps that I put on the coaches. And I want to make sure that I clarify that, because anybody who blames Rich Bisaccia for Romeo Dobbs muffing the onside kick is wrong. But when you look at what were the actual coaching errors, it's primarily earlier on in the season. I look back at the Cleveland game specifically, and I look back at the Dallas game specifically, because it was wrong personnel, it was wrong lineups, those types of things that led to those errors. Now, again, I don't put Romeo Dobbs, and I don't put also the fact that Brandon McManus missed a lot of field goals this year, because that's a personnel thing. If McManus needed to be put on IR, then that's a personnel thing. So again, I think looking back at it, I think Bisaccia took the time he needed, and I think he came to the conclusion that it was time for him to move on. And so I truly think that this was him saying that and LaFleur giving him carte blanche to do so.
Was that because we are February 18th, the Packers lost an assistant coordinator to Cleveland to be the head special teams coordinator and such, but does this put Green Bay a little bit of a bind in terms of the pool that they can pick from, because pretty much all the coaching staffs now are set at this point?
Yeah, there's still some names out there. And so, I don't think it puts them in a bind. I think there's guys out there that Green Bay can get in. Again, kind of like the Jonathan Gannon hire. I think this is a critical one because LaFleur needed to get the defensive coordinator position right, and he needs to get this special teams coordinator. And so, I think a name to keep an eye on, specifically, Jeff Rogers. So he was on Jonathan Gannon's staff with the Arizona Cardinals. And so actually, you know what? I take that back. Rogers' name was off. That's who I was thinking before. But Rogers signed on with the Bills. That's the guy I would have wanted because he had that familiarity with Jonathan Gannon. But, you got guys, Todd McMahon is a name that comes to mind, Chase Blackburn. You've got some of those guys that have been around. Thomas McGahee from Tampa Bay. So you've got some names that are out there. But again, I think the bottom line is I think LaFleur has to do his due diligence, and I think he's got to pull from he's got to pull some names that have some kind of cachet and some type of experience. Because again, we've talked about this, bringing guys in who don't have experience, and I'm talking about even the college level, bringing guys in at the college level with successful college special teams programs, I'd be okay with. It's I want guys who have been in the position before, who have a successful track record, and so I'm not concerned about that the pool is this is late in the game and the pool of names is not what it once was, but the bottom line is this is a critical hire for Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, I guess for some of those names mentioned over there too, I mean, they were fired during the season as special teams coordinator. So I guess my question would be, are those the best options for this job with Green Bay? Because it is a critical hire at this point.
Yeah, it is. It is. And again, but, you look back and you look at the names of guys that were hired in different situations that went on to success in other situations. So you really got to ask yourself, and I'll pull another name out there. Marquise Williams, and he's got ties with LaFleur, and you talked about the Todd McMahon name. He was fired midseason from the Raiders. I mean, you look at the totality of the situation, and most of those names of guys that were fired midseason, there's other circumstances. So I agree with you. You look at the resume, but if I go back to the days of Bill Parcells' early coaching career and some of these other guys, and we even talked about it, Mike McCarthy coming over from San Francisco when he was the offensive coordinator of the last offense of the team, coming over to be Green Bay's head coach, and Matt LaFleur not having success, real success at some of his previous stops from an offensive standpoint. And so I look at that and I say, okay, I got to look at the totality of the situation. Was it a dumpster fire overall, or was it situational? Was it the special teams coach? Was it personnel? Was it all those things? So again, I haven't done the research on the guy that I really want, and I'm going to start doing that and looking at some of the names. Like I said, the guy that I wanted that would have been perfect, I think, was Rogers. And this goes back to your point. Is this leaving Green Bay in the lurk? And I think LaFleur's got to do better work because of it. I think he has to do better due diligence because of it, because of the timing of it. But so far, I've been happy with LaFleur's moves this offseason from a coaching standpoint. And before I worry about the choice, I'm going to look at who's starting to come in and who's reported as being interviewed and start doing my background on those. And so again, I've got confidence in LaFleur. I think he's done a nice job of replacing coaches this offseason. And then it remains to be seen where he goes with this. But, yeah, he's got to get this one right.
So would you say when we look back at special teams, I know Goody said a couple weeks ago during his presser that he feels like as during his tenure he has done, invested more in special teams than what Ted Thompson did. Do you agree that the Packers have focused on special teams and making sure that they have the right personnel? Do you put some of the issues mostly on the coaching staff, the lack of personnel? What side of the aisle are you on with that?
It's a great question. And I actually had a discussion. One of my coaching brethren has also some previous close ties to Green Bay. He and I talked quite a bit about this, and he said, if you look back, the organization hasn't really been that good for a long time when it comes to special teams. And so I don't necessarily look at it and say, this is one guy's fault. It seems to me that maybe one of the tenets of the Ron Wolf, Ted Thompson tree is that because they are a draft and develop team, you're going to have a lot of young guys and potentially undrafted free agent guys that are part of your special teams group. So I think this is more of a philosophy from how Green Bay builds its rosters. Again, think back. It's been a long time. Probably I'm going to go back to probably the 96, 97, 98 era since I felt Green Bay had competent special teams all the way around. And so I think it's an organizational thing. Now, again, can I pinpoint why that is? I point to the draft and develop philosophy that you're going to have some guys that again don't have the experience, and I go back to Brandon Boston, for example. Obviously, we all remember that muffed onside kick, and he was a young player at the time, and so it really could point to the Packers' philosophy of how to build the team. When you look at, and here's another example. Matt LaFleur doesn't like smaller receivers. Okay, he likes bigger receivers. Well, bigger receivers don't make great return guys. And so now you've got that dynamic where you lose a little bit of that elusiveness in a punt return game. I mean, Romeo Dobbs last year gave Green Bay absolutely nothing in the punt return game except for the fact that he caught every punt. And so it may come down to a little bit more, and Packer fans need to realize this, that it might just be an organizational thing. That it's really, and because Rich Bisaccia was a successful coach at his other stops. And so, you look at that, and then he wasn't when he got to Green Bay. And this is a guy that was experienced. So, yeah, I think you do have to look at it a little bit and say to yourself, is it an organizational philosophy, the way they build their teams, that special teams aren't necessarily going to be that equal third element of the game like offense and defense is?
Joe, I want to, obviously we've got franchise tags. Now teams can start to place them and such, and we kind of touched on that last week. But, there were some predictions out there because, people are trying to come up with content and all that right now. And one of them from Fox Sports was they kind of thought Green Bay would sign Quay Walker if it was about $10 million per year. Would you make that move for $10 million per year? Would you keep Quay Walker around just without getting deep into the weeds of cap hits and guaranteed money or anything like that? If it was $10 million to keep Quay Walker around, would you do that?
I wouldn't do that. I think Green Bay does. I think Green Bay, I think the front office, and I think the coaching staff, I think they think very highly of Quay Walker. And again, I don't hate Quay Walker. I don't. I think he's done some nice things. I almost put him in that A.J. Hawk kind of a box. By that I mean this. A.J. Hawk, I believe, was the 5th or 6th pick of the draft. A.J. Hawk carved himself a really nice career in Green Bay. Really nice career. Super Bowl champion, made some plays. But I never thought of A.J. Hawk being worthy of that choice. I don't think he played up to a top 10 choice in the first round of the NFL draft. Quay Walker, first round pick. I just don't think the production has matched where he was drafted. And so I wouldn't make that move just because there's other areas that, and if you truly are holding to your draft and develop, at that point you say it's time to give Hopper a chance. So I wouldn't do that. Do I think Green Bay could do that? Yes. Yes, I think Green Bay, if the market is soft, I think they re-sign Quay Walker.
Speaking of the market and such, do you have you thought about maybe a surprise move or a bold move that you could see Green Bay doing, whether it's maybe keeping one of their players that we just assumed that they would be, kind of moving on from, or maybe, somebody that you could potentially see there on the free agent market? I know Packers fans now are probably salivating about Bradley Chubb and such, but I don't know your thoughts on that. But do you have like a bold prediction that you want to make at this point?
No, not for other players, not for players. I mean, you're going to start seeing all these names, and there's going to be a lot of big time names, especially from new coaching staffs coming in, and especially from teams that need to get under the cap. We're only a few weeks away from when they need to get under the cap, so you're going to start seeing these names out there. So, no, I'm not making any bold predictions outside of the Packers. I'm going to make one that I think has that might have some legs to it. Could I see Green Bay potentially, and I'm just saying potentially, and this would be a surprise move, where they bring back Elton Jenkins on a restructured deal and move him back to left guard, and at that point cut their losses with Aaron Banks? Could I see that happen? Potentially. Again, Elton Jenkins was a damn good left guard. And so, could I see that happen potentially? Yeah. That would be my bold move, where Green Bay says, we're going to re-sign, we're going to restructure Elton, bring him back, plug him back into left guard, and admit the mistake of Aaron Banks. And so, that would be my bold prediction. But do I see them, a bold prediction going outside of Green Bay? No. I see Green Bay making some moves and being active this offseason. I think it's going to be relatively easy, now that I've had a chance to really kind of look at this, to get underneath the cap to a point of where you can actually do some things. So I think Green Bay will put themselves in a much better position to be able to go get someone. That being said, I don't see them making the moves. 2 years ago, they go out and get Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. And last year they trade for Micah Parsons. I don't see the magnitude of those types of outside moves. If they're going to be bold, it's going to be someone's going to be brought back that we didn't expect. That I see much more as a possibility than going outside the organization and making a splash.
Last question for you. So a position that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, but I'm curious, given the last couple of years and the importance of it. Malik Willis is all but gone at this point. We got Desmond Ridder on the roster here. How big of a spot is that for Green Bay to try to address this offseason? Or are you willing to say, hey, let's see what Desmond Ridder, who's got starting experience in this league, are you comfortable if he begins the season as your backup quarterback?
I am comfortable. I am comfortable. I want competition, but I am comfortable with that based on what Matt LaFleur was able to do with Malik Willis. Desmond Ridder, high draft choice. Came with a lot of publicity and a lot of expectations. Same with Malik Willis. And so if that's how they're going to run into the season, I'm okay with that. And again, can lightning strike twice as far as, changing Malik Willis into a legitimate NFL quarterback and changing Desmond Ridder into I don't have the answer to that. But are the raw tools there like they were with Malik Willis in a different way? Absolutely. So I'm 100% confident. With knowing the ability of Matt LaFleur and his ability to work with quarterbacks and what we saw Malik Willis grow into, yeah, I would take Ridder and I'd be okay with that.
I think I would be too. I think they're in a better spot right now than maybe they were when they had to go out there and acquire Malik Willis too. So, but no, I agree.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I think, and again, I think this off season I think is going to be it's a critical off season. We talk about the hires on the coaching staff. We talk about some of these positional things. We talk about their cap space. We talk about everything else. We talk about who's coming off of injuries. This is a critical off season for Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, and this organization. I think this is going to be the off season that dictates whether or not the window for Green Bay ends up with a championship trophy.
Yeah. He's Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning, as always, every Wednesday morning. Appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You got it. There you go. There's Joe joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We're going to get back to some more baseball talk. What did Mark Attanasio have to say to the media yesterday? We'll get back to some more Badger Hoops chats. Badgers fall into Ohio State's last night. And then, of course, your Am I Wrongs. Am I wrong for thinking this? Am I wrong for saying this? Give me your best ones, all right? Shoot those on over. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Tax season is here, and what about that refund check? It's more than just extra spending money. It's an opportunity. Think about it as an opportunity. This year, why not invest it right where you live? You can upgrade your home with beautiful new flooring from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Whether you've been dreaming about warm, comfortable carpet, maybe some durable luxury vinyl planks like that innovative Rigid Max flooring, or some waterproof options, perfect for the busy family, especially this time of year, right? Now is the time to make it happen. Your tax return could go a long way towards transforming that look and feel of your home. And at Carpet City Flooring Center, you'll find expert guidance, professional installation, and flooring options for every budget. Don't let that refund disappear on little things you won't remember next month. Put it towards something you'll see and enjoy every single day. Stop on in to Carpet City Flooring Center today in Eau Claire and turn your tax return into a home upgrade you will love for years to come. Carpet City Flooring Center, stepping into something better. All right. So what did Mark Attanasio again have to say yesterday? Again, nothing a whole lot. We went through some of these quotes in the first hour and such, but, one of them we didn't highlight was he was asked, the Brewers have done so well drafting and developing players in recent years, and now some rule changes may be in the offing in those areas. How might that affect the organization? He said, quote, "We feel that whatever the system is, it looks like the cards are stacked against us. We're going to compete. We've done that for 21 years through last year. We had the fourth most wins in the National League from day one. We've had every disadvantage. So whatever it is, we're going to compete. And of course, there's very active dialogue on all of that at the league level behind the scenes. And you know what we're trying to achieve in labor. In baseball, we're trying to have competitive balance so that fans could come out and have hope for all 30 teams. But if there are some advantages that certain teams have because of what they're doing, you have to be careful about taking those advantages away, because then maybe you'll disrupt the balance standpoint." I think, again, it all boils down. I think part of that is towards maybe like what we're seeing from Dodgers and high spending, teams and such, and that aspect. But yeah, he didn't really talk a whole lot about the potential labor disruption. And now with the Players Union or the Players Association, with their president stepping down, their leader, Clark, resigning after some naughty stuff going on, I think this just added a bigger wrench into the whole whether we're going to have baseball starting on time in 2027 or not. So, I don't have a good gauge. I don't think anybody really has a good gauge of where everything's at this point when it comes to where baseball is going to be at in terms of their new bargaining agreement or their new collective bargaining agreement coming up here to begin 2027. So I wish we could sit here and say that we're going to have baseball to begin 2027, but I think it's so up in the air. And Mark Attanasio, again, in his media session yesterday, didn't really go one way or the other, saying they can't really talk about it. Essentially said that, they're kind of in the pregame aspect of it. But yeah, it's going to be a topic throughout this whole season, I feel like. And now with the Players Association having to have a new leader in place, it's probably going to be, it's just another wrench thrown into this mess at this point in time. So, but, all right. I know we're a little bit behind here, so we're going to have to take another break before the top of the hour here. But send me your Am I Wrongs. We'll hit those up coming up throughout the final 2 hours as we approach halftime here. So send me your Mike Star Markets Am I Wrongs. We'll get to that. So we're going to get back to some more hoops chat as well. We'll talk some Badger basketball. Badgers fallen last night to Ohio State after getting back in the top 25 after having a fantastic week last week. They fell last night to the Buckeyes. Michigan taking down Purdue in a big-time Big Ten matchup between two top 10 teams. So Michigan continuing their role right now. Michigan State's picking up a win against UCLA. Just kind of looking at some of the Big Ten scores from last night. Arizona State, I know it's not Big Ten, but Arizona State picking up an upset win over Texas Tech. Iowa, the opponent next up for Wisconsin, with a big win last night, taking down 9th-ranked Nebraska. So right now when we look at the Big Ten standings, with Wisconsin's only got 5 more games left to go here in this thing. Number 1, it sure looks like they're going to get that top seed, and they're in line to have the number 1 overall seed when it comes to the tournament. But Michigan, you got Illinois, that's 2.5 games back. Purdue is 3.5 games back. Nebraska, 3.5 games back. Michigan State, 3.5 games back. Wisconsin, 4.5 games back. It almost feels like getting closer to that. Okay, we know Michigan's going to be the top seed when it gets to the conference tournament. And now you've got fighting for positioning for the rest of that field, between Illinois all the way down to, heck, UCLA probably. I mean, UCLA and Ohio State and Iowa are just 3 games back of Illinois for that 2nd seed right now for the conference tournament, not factoring in tiebreakers and all that stuff. But it's going to go down to the wire here for some seeding when it comes to that conference tournament. So even with the loss last night, Wisconsin 6th right now in the Big Ten conference standings. All right, we got to take our final break, and then we're going to wrap up the second hour and head into halftime here. So stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Looking for a great night out in Eau Claire? Well, then you need to head to the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. Come for the food, stay for the atmosphere. From crowd favorite fish fries to burgers, sandwiches, and daily specials, there's always something hot and delicious coming out of the kitchen. And it's not just about the menu, with live music, parties, events, and something new happening all the time. VFW Post 305 is where friends meet and good times happen. Great food, friendly faces, always something going on. VFW Post 305, your neighborhood spot for a night well spent. And don't forget, coming up Friday, March 20th, it's our Hoops Skip Day, where we're going to be hanging out at the VFW Post 305, watching some college basketball. It'll be the second day of the tournament and such. So we'll, if you're looking for somewhere to hang out and watch some hoops, I think we're going to have some prizes and maybe even some free beverages and such. More of those details to come when we get a little bit closer, but put it on your calendars to hang out at the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. I know Joel Lenardi doesn't have the updated bracketology. I'm trying to see if there's an updated one after Wisconsin falling last night. So CBS does have one as of this morning. No, they don't. It says it's updated, but they don't have anything on there. So come on, maybe I'll keep looking on here. So, but I was just kind of curious to where some of the experts, if they have Wisconsin knocked down after last night's loss to Ohio State. So we'll try a little bit later on, see if it gets updated and such. So, all right, we're approaching halftime here this morning. We'll get back some more baseball talk as we are getting set for some first spring training games coming up this weekend for the Brew Crew and others. We'll talk some more baseball. Also on the dockets, we'll get back to some more, maybe a little bit more football talk with the special teams talk with the Packers. Rich Bisaccia no longer on the team, stepping down as assistant head coach and special teams coordinator. So maybe throw out some names out there that could be some possible targets for Matt LaFleur and the Packers. So we'll dabble into that. Get back to your Am I Wrong? So send those on over. Brought to you by Mike Star Market. Am I wrong for saying this? Am I wrong for thinking that? All right. Well, best ones I'll read up on the air. So what else do we got on the docket here too? Don't have any NBA, don't have any Bucks stock because they're not back at it till Friday. So still going through the All-Star break here, but just 29 games left to go in that regular season here too. So, but yeah, I do want to get back to some more specific Brewers chat though too when we get back to some baseball talk here too. Maybe a coach to. One of these, a coach that we probably haven't heard a whole lot about, but there's going to be a lot relied upon his expertise this year to get the most out of that third base spot. We'll kind of explain that coming up to kick off the third hour too. So we'll touch on that too. But a name that you might want to pay attention to that could have a big impact for this Brewers, did I say Badgers? I meant Brewers baseball team going forward. Head cold is still kicking my butt right now, so bear with me. All right, 2 hours in. We got 2 more to go here. We're at halftime. Got some news updates, and we'll be right back after these quick words. All right, third hour kicking off on this Wednesday morning of February 18th. Clay, you are a better man than I am. Clay says, I'm 8 hours into Lent. Am I wrong for craving meat already? Cripes, better man than me. I don't think I could go that long, Clay. Holy moly. So, but good to hear from you, bud. Hope all is well. All right, coming up, on that note, keep sending us your Am I Wrongs. Am I wrong? All right, am I wrong? Best ones I'll read on the air. We're going to talk some baseball coming up here in just a little bit. Maybe the coach, maybe the position coach that we should really be paying attention to, paying a little bit more attention to this year for the Brewers. And that's their third base coach, but he also works with the infielders. Matt Erickson. Apparently Matt Erickson. This was an interesting nugget from Jack Stern, who we've had on the program before talking some Brewers and such. But Jack Stern, talking about their new third baseman, Luis, coming over, he said the Brewers love good defense. Public metrics grades Luis as a poor defender, particularly at third base. Here's what Matt Arnold said about the role Matt Erickson played in the Brewers' evaluation of Luis and how they think he'll help him improve in the field. From Matt Arnold, quote, the first thing he did when he came in to work out yesterday at 2 o'clock was take ground balls with Matt Erickson. And just knowing that Matt Erickson's here and what he's been able to do with a lot of our infielders was somebody we talked a lot about before we acquired Luis. Having those tools and ingredients and having Matt as part of that evaluation process saying, hey, I've seen this guy. I think he has a chance to be really good here. And we believe in Matt Erickson making these guys better. And Hunter Baumgart, who we've had on multiple times talking Brewers, to follow up on that, put up a clip of Caleb Durbin talking about what, giving props to Matt Erickson and such. So, we talk a lot about with the Brewers when it comes to how they've been able to develop pitchers. And whenever a pitcher kind of comes in, it's give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, the Brewers are going to be able to figure that out. You think about it then, too, when it comes to the infielders, is that also, are we getting to the point where where we should be thinking the same thing with infielders with the Brewers like we do with pitchers going over the Brewers? You know what I mean? Like, oh, yep, a reclamation project coming over the Brewers when it comes to a pitching thing, and they're probably going to be able to figure that out and probably get the most out of him and turn him into a really good pitcher. And you kind of look at it from an infielder standpoint. Caleb Durbin got better as the season progressed at third base for a guy who had little to none experience playing at third. You look at the other infielders, Joey Ortiz, when he first came up, nobody's questioning Joey Ortiz's defense. He was great at third base. He's great at shortstop. We know Bryce Terang is a platinum glove winner at second base. So maybe kind of when we look at these infielders and these third basemen from a defensive standpoint, are the Brewers kind of in that same area when it comes to pitching? You bring in these guys and you're probably going to get the most out of them, or you're probably going to get improvement play from them. So a little bit of a background on Matt Erickson. He actually is from Appleton, Wisconsin. So, but he has been... he was the hitting coach in 2008. He was named the hitting coach for low-A Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. 2011, he was selected to manage the Timber Rattlers. He was promoted to the Major League staff in order to serve as their infield instructor and assistant hitting coach beginning in the 2022 season. And then just earlier this year, he was named the team's third base coach. So he has been with this Brewer system for a long time and has progressed throughout this system for a long time. But I thought that was kind of, we don't hear a whole lot about these position coaches and such when it's baseball, and that we obviously know about pitching coaches and hitting coaches and such. But maybe something to kind of keep tabs on to see how that third base turns out to be for the Brewers, specifically from a defensive standpoint. I thought that was kind of a interesting little nugget there. Speaking of some interesting nuggets, if you're wondering about some possible options to be the new special teams coordinator for the Packers, you can check out Bill Huber's piece. He's got 6 promising assistants who could replace Rich Bisaccia. So these are just assistants. One of them, there's one on here that I'm really interested about. But here's the list. Devin Fitzsimmons, he's the assistant right now with the Seattle Seahawks. Brian Schneider, he is with the Commanders. He was a first-time coordinator for the Raiders in 2007 and in 2008 to 2009. He was the coordinator for USC under Pete Carroll. Carroll was hired by the Seahawks in 2010, and Schneider followed him to Seattle and was the coordinator from 2010 through 2020. Then Jaguars 2021, 49ers 22 through 24. Colt Anderson, who we already mentioned, he is the 49ers assistant special teams coordinator. Joe Hastings with the Colts, 5th season assistant overall, 3rd under Brian Mason from the Colts. He had worked at Michigan from 2015 to 2017 beforehand. Ben Jacobs with the Bengals. And then Luke Thompson with the Jaguars. Just looking, this is the 4th season as assistant with the Jaguars. Before that, he was an assistant for the Eagles in 19 and 20, and then was in the college ranks for 20 years before that. So the one name that you look at Colt Anderson, he was a one-time special teams coordinator 1 year for the Titans, Brian Callahan's first year on the job. Then they made a move and brought in a longtime veteran, John Fossil, for that. The other one I'm kind of curious of is Devin Fitzsimmons, because Seahawks special teams, they were pretty stout this year. So if you're kind of looking at some special teams and like how do you get some of that? Maybe you kind of look at the Seahawks here. But he has worked under Jay Harbaugh. Seattle finished 3rd in the SI rankings in special teams, 3rd in kickoff return average, 3rd in punt return average, 4th in kickoff coverage. This was a quote from Fitzsimmons after the Super Bowl. Quote, "You just want to outcoach the other guy. You just want your players to be like, that's exactly what we talked about. You just want them to know the look and beat the other coach. Winning the Super Bowl was a dream come true, but we know next season will be a new chapter." So he's been an assistant for a few years, too, in Carolina, in Arizona, and Detroit. So it'll be interesting. Does Green Bay go with somebody that has had special teams coordinator experience before? Or do they go the assistant route, give them their first shot at running a special teams group? Which way does Matt LaFleur decide to go? That's where I'm kind of curious. Because there are options out there. I mean, there's other options besides these 6 names, guys who don't really have jobs right now that are potentially out there, and they've been long-time coordinators. Do they go with a veteran approach, or do they go with a younger, maybe a little bit of a younger mindset and go with the first-time coordinating experience? Guess we'll find out. We'll talk to, again, Rob Domofsky is going to join us tomorrow from ESPN, so we'll get his take and insights on that move for Green Bay. Maybe he's got an idea of what direction they could potentially go. So, all right, let's take a quick break. I want to get back to some more baseball talk, more hoops talk as well. So continue to send me your Am I Wrongs? Best ones. We'll read up on the air. Quick break, and we'll be right back after these few words. Looking for affordable, reliable auto parts? Well, then you need to start with the experts who know vehicles inside and out. That's ASAP Used Auto Parts and Conrad's Auto Salvage. There you'll find quality recycled parts that keep your vehicle running without breaking the bank. Engines, transmissions, hard to find components. If you need it, chances are they've got it. Their knowledgeable team helps you find the right part fast, saving you time and money. Whether you are a do-it-yourselfer, a repair shop, or just trying to extend the life of your ride, trust the pros. ASAP Used Auto Parts and Conrad's Auto Salvage. From salvage to service, one name that you can trust. So as we know, spring training getting underway, has been underway. Teams, full squad workouts. We got our first Brewers spring training game coming up on Saturday. But kind of a wrench thrown into the maybe labor talks between Major League Baseball and the Players Association. Players Association is going to need a new director now, as Tony Clark resigned after an internal investigation revealed inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who was hired by the union in 2023. So not a great time, I would imagine, Luke, for the association to find a new leader when there's probably, by all accounts, a very major negotiation and back and forth between this, what I think many are assuming is probably going to be a lockout at this point. But, yeah, not the great timing for all this.
I don't know that Tony Clark was the best possible head of the Players Association. Like, he wasn't quite Marvin Miller, if you will. But this is, as a general rule, you don't want your main guy to have to leave right before a very critical negotiation that could fundamentally change the future of your organization.
Yeah.
Just it's not good practices. Even if, was it Bob Meyer, I think is the person who's probably going to be at least interim elevated. Like, they got plenty of people there who know what's going on. It's not like, oh, whoa, what do we do now? Sure, just odors, whatever. It's not going to be that way. Mm-hmm. But you still need to have someone that there's a reason why you have a leader. There's a reason why you have a boss, because they set the tone for the entire organization, and they have the best strategy. That's gone now. I guess you could say maybe it's better that he's gone, given the other stuff that was happening as well, like how much of a distraction does that become, et cetera, et cetera. This makes me wonder a little bit more to if, I'm sure this is probably a lot of people's thoughts if you're thinking of how do the negotiations go. This is advantage owners in terms of, do they have a better shot at getting probably still not the salary cap, but something like that?
Yeah.
I will say that Jeff Passan article that he came out, that was published a few days ago at ESPN.com. The kicker is at the end, where they basically say TV revenue, TV, I put that in quotation marks, there's a lot of that streaming now.
Right.
But video revenue, shall we say, could really help make up a lot of the financial issues that Brewers always have to face, the Pirates face, the Twins are now facing. You nationalize, get everything a little more even, and you don't have the issue that a salary cap still would have. There's still going to be a big gap if you have a salary cap and a salary floor, and it's not like you're going to have like $200 million. Everyone's got to spend $200 to like $205. It's not going to. There's still going to be a big gap, regardless.
Yeah.
Worth a read for anyone who wants to kind of get a table setter for what's going to be coming a year from now. But yeah, the Clark departure does not help the players. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That video one, I did read it, the streaming one, and that's where I'm curious how everything kind of plays out and such, because I feel like every year there's something different with streaming. Mm-hmm. Like, it just keeps evolving and keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. And again, it's for those that still want to, it's not going away. You know, we talk about with football games playing on Prime and that, right?
Yeah.
It ain't going away.
Right.
You're going to have a Packers game that's going to be on Prime or Peacock that you're either going to have to miss and just continue to miss, or suck it up and go watch it. And
or listen for free on the radio.
Yeah,
to
that
Sports
too.
Talk 105.1.
Well,
Brewers games. But yeah, like, you still have a lot of options to do stuff with this. But the biggest key is finding some way to make sure that everyone has, you want like equality of opportunity, essentially. Let the smart teams figure out how to stay competitive. That's what works really well with the NFL. Smart teams figured out how to not get around the salary cap, but how to work with a salary cap. Patriots, for a while, it was the 49ers. I know a lot of the 49ers' success was pre-free agency in 1993, but they still have found, you can tell which teams are good at it, which teams are bad at it. That's what you ideally want. Everyone's got a fair shot, and now let's see who's smart enough to know what to do. Baseball, you could be smart enough. Well, yeah, sorry, don't have enough money. Go back down.
Maybe the Brewers just got to do what Major League 2 did, and where the old school signs in the outfield, right? I know that movie clip. Euchre's talking. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Oh boy! I mean, hey, if
looks
that
like
works.
Roger Door's done a little decorating in the stadium. So
anything that works, I guess. Why not? That would be fun. Seems very Savannah Bananas, but I still think I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think Manfred's going to get there. He's going to get, in terms of a uniform broadcasting, whatever you term that, the visual. I'm trying to find some overarching word that accounts for everything. Probably video is the best way to put it. Because I suppose this also includes some national radio rights, audio streaming. So basically, how can you watch and/or, when needing to pay, listen to a game? And Rob Manfred, I think, is going to find a uniform model, like what the NFL has. Get that so all the teams can get a lot, can share more in the revenue. Now, you're still going to have issues of some teams that like to pocket the revenue. Any streaming to make up for deficiencies, probably some smaller markets, but not all. Some want to compete and they can't. They're looking at their bottom line going, no, we can't do it. Some are very Pohlad-like and extremely business-like. Side note, I'm curious to see what happens with Tom Pohlad now. Is he the guy who took over as the controlling owner of the Twins? And he's been saying repeatedly, I think he had some interviews just before the Pablo Lopez injury, was like, I plan to be aggressive. I want to make sure that the Twins are going to be a playoff team. Well, now you have a perfect opportunity to actually do that. Let's see what they do over the next couple weeks or so.
Right.
Or is it the bottom line once again, and we don't have the money and we can't do it, which I can kind of understand it, but this still needs to be figured out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I with the whole, Tony Clark thing too, I have because that's a former. Do they tend to go with former players with that
Not
all the
always.
time? Not always.
Because the two that stand out most historically are Marvin Miller and Donald Fehr. You may remember him from the 1994 labor disaster. Neither was a former player. So I know you have that in other sports too. Like think Gene Upshaw and DeMaurice Smith.
Because Troy Vincent has been mentioned many times as a possibility, former Badger and obviously player and such. So
I think they'd like to have a former player because there's relatability to that.
Yep. I know J.C. Treader was the former president and such too. So
So oftentimes that will happen across all the sports, but I don't think it's a requirement.
In this case, do you want somebody who's got some legal experience and such in negotiation?
Yeah,
probably.
I think they need to prioritize who's going to get the best deal, not who can stand up for the players. Then there's the question, and I brought this up before. I think we all need to remember this, that the players are not necessarily uniform in what they want the cap.
Right.
There's some that are the hardcore never. And there's a lot of others who are probably like, actually that might boost some of the lower salaries. So if you bring in a player, well, which group of players are they probably going to?
It's very similar to that latest NFL one, right? Where the veterans, remember that vote where the veterans were like, no, but the younger ones were
yes.
Because, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like an increase or something for the lower pay.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers was vocal about no, but it passed.
I think that was the overall vote, I think, for the overall CBA. And the younger ones went, well, this is how we get paid.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean, come on, they're not making the money that the higher level ones are making.
Exactly.
So you probably do need someone who has a best sense of the overall health of the union going 5-10 years down the road, so there's not another case of, hey, did we get screwed over by this? That's the ultimate thing you want. Look out for the best interests of the union. Who do you represent? Especially not a case like who was the guy that got booted from the NFLPA because he was clearly not. I'm blanking on the name, but the guy who was there for like about a year or so, and then he was like, hey, 18 games are actually maybe not a bad idea.
Yeah.
We know who I'm talking about, but it's the guy that was basically representing the owners by leading the players. And
yeah, I'll have to look at
that guy.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You want someone who's not necessarily going to have the most hot button pro player issue or perspective, but someone who's not going to get the players in a situation where they feel like they're being swindled, to use a cliche, by the owners as we approach whenever the next labor agreement comes up in probably the 2030s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take a quick break, but we got plenty more to get to here. So stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. quick update on the medal count as the Winter Olympics continues to roll on through. Norway still the leader with 32 overall medals and the leader with gold with 15 gold. Italy's got 25 total goals, 25 total medals, and the U.S. third with 24 total. And it looks like that's kind of Italy's got 9 golds and the U.S. has 7, so same order with that too. So, but
Husky probably has a bronze.
What's that?
If no, it's a Husky dog that got on the women's team sprint biathlon. You saw the video.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it's cute.
Yeah. Looks like the U.S. is the only one with double-digit silvers. So I mean, they got 11 right now.
Fair
Silvers. Probably, hopefully, maybe get another gold with women's hockey
tomorrow.
So, yep.
And then early Sunday morning. Well, early, but was it 7 or so? And Sunday morning is when the men's hockey championship and the gold medal game is coming up. But okay, pretty good.
Have you been following a little bit more and more now with everything kind of going on with the Olympics?
For sure. Yeah. Waking up a little busy.
There's only 4 days left of this
I know.
thing,
I realized this morning, I'm like, dang, this is almost done. Like every day, you're like, okay, bring up the Olympics, and that's just about over. I missed Michaela Schifrin this morning just because I was, as you could tell by both of us, we're both sick. So I'm waking up this morning just like, I didn't even bring up Peacock fast enough to see the Schifrin gold medal slide. What do you know what I mean? Her run. Yeah. But yeah, it's the figure skating's been kind of heartbreaking. I mean, maybe not so much with the ice dancing. I mean, that was what it was. The Malanen thing, watching that in real time, just like, oh no. But what happened yesterday with Ashley Green? She starts off good, and then and I had it on live, and the moment where Johnny Weir and Tara Lipinski are like, oh no, she missed the 2. You're like, uh-oh. And if anyone didn't see that at the end, like she breaks down as the moment the music shuts off and it's done, and she's about as despondent as you'll see anyone at the Olympics. I mean, it's right up there with the Norwegian skier who tossed his poles the other day and walked like as far away, like he wanted to get away from the cameras, and you can't. But it's the sucky part. And on the other hand, that is so human too. Mm-hmm. Like it's part of the whole package with all of this. So yeah, it's a solid Olympics so far. I don't know that there's been one wow moment. Sometimes you have those, and maybe that's still to come. Like one of the biggest ones of Vancouver was Canada, USA in the men's hockey gold medal game last day of the Olympics. So that's still to come. So there's plenty more still to come.
Right. I mean, more locally, I guess, too. I know we got, Ben Lewis and such, but from state-wise, I mean, Jordan Stoll's going to be going for another gold tomorrow, it sounds like. So, I mean, statewide, I mean, he's been setting Olympic records and winning gold. So, that, kind of, I mean, cool to bring up the Eric Hayden, references and backgrounds with that, too.
Yes.
So, just kind of flashbacks with that. So, that's a cool story.
The curling drama thing, too.
Oh, yeah. Words we can't say, but I didn't touch it, that sort of, Then the slow-mo replay.
A couple taps on this one. It's almost becoming a little absurd. Like, I don't, curling feels like one of those things that's, Olympic curling, I don't want to mean general, but Olympic curling is like that thing that's like, hey, that's pretty cool to follow along. And Gold Zone shows a ton of it, probably in part because there is a lot of it to watch. So usually when the quad box comes up, there's oftentimes 4 matches at any given moment. But it's captivating to watch. Like it's really easy once you start understanding curling. Like you can't stop watching it. I don't want it to become like goofy sport. Yeah. That happens with certain sports. Like other stuff starts to take over. There's the thing with the Italian women's team. You heard about that controversy.
Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know, look up the Italian women's team and find out what's going on there. It's like it's really quote unquote off the rink stuff.
Right.
You don't want that to get in too much. But the overall play is great. Absolutely, it's wonderful. So still more to come there, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's. I've been actually, I've told myself I was going to try to watch it a little bit more this year, and I have been.
Good.
So, yeah.
Good.
Yep.
So we've got 2.5 years now till Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how that, because that's going to be flag football too. So, which I still say, if the U.S. does not dominate that thing, I don't want it to be where basketball got to a point where we were dominant, and then it's like, oh crap, that we were getting our butts kicked.
It could go two ways. It could either be so dominant for America that you're like, why are we doing this? Sorry, but why? But it would be pretty embarrassing to lose in flag football.
Do you think they should just maybe make it so it's retired players?
I think,
because we're at the point now where they're retiring when they're still fairly young.
yeah,
It's
that gets around the issue of NFL teams. We heard about plenty of this with the World Baseball Classic insurance stuff.
right.
We've heard there have been stories to this effect of what are NFL teams going to allow. The story is going to come up a lot more in the next 2.5 years.
Right.
Retired players gets around that, obviously. I
Right.
mean, whatever their insurance companies say, well, that's up to them. But you don't have a team that's going to have an issue and step in.
I don't want it to turn into kind of what the Pro Bowl games have been, where teams are going to say, no, Patrick Mahomes, you're not playing.
Yeah.
No, Joe Burrow, you're not playing. So, all right, hey, Shador, you're our starter for the Olympics. Joe Flacco, you're going to be the best. I don't want that to happen. I don't want it to be a glorified Pro Bowl games sort of thing.
Right.
And where it becomes embarrassing.
It's all in or all out.
Right.
That's what you kind of needed with the NHL. You either needed all the NHL players to be available or it had to be college.
Yep.
They got to do that with this too. I know there's plenty of talent to go around. And admittedly, it's new too. So for all I know, maybe you could have a Pro Bowl games, the backup to the backup to the backup, and still have a really good Olympics. We don't know how this is going to go out in an Olympic setting. Got to watch it.
Yeah.
Won't know for a while yet. But it's got to either be non-NFL players or all NFL players or something.
And the other part too, I'd be curious about, like when it's like basketball does the World Games and the off-season commitment that those guys have.
Mm-hmm.
Are NFL players going to do that?
I don't know.
That's the other thing. Like how many of them are going to dedicate their off? Because remember when the Bucks won the championship, what was the talk? Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton had to turn around and go to the Olympics right away.
That's right, because it was the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah. So there was like no downtime.
Yes. And because the games will be happening, like July, August, is right around the beginning of training camp.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of these players are probably that you would expect probably not going to do that much like usual. They still will take part in training camp, of course.
Yeah.
Get the installs and everything. But, maybe the ultimate thing is I don't want to find myself underwhelmed.
Right.
And again, we don't know what we're going to see, but my fear is way too big of a term for an Olympic demonstration sport. But back to the Pro Bowl games. All the different things that were being tried out, like, ooh, this sounds interesting. Like when they were first going to do the Pro Bowl games a few years ago, that seemed genuinely interesting. Like, ooh, this is going to be like a skills challenge, stuff like. I might be conflating two things. But I remember being genuinely interested, and then, like, it was a pre-taped thing in the afternoon, and it just kind of came and went. You're like, what was this? Like, it wasn't that exciting.
Like, my fear with this thing is they're going to treat it like, hey, they just play a flag football game in the Pro Bowl games. We could just kind of, with that, not dedicate any practice time, just like, hey, show up, backyard, we're going to play. And that they might have the talent to, do that and still win, but we've seen that not work in basketball. The U.S. has put together some really good teams, but you could tell they weren't serious about it, and they got their butts whooped.
Right. And as much as American football primarily has American players, well, it's not, we know it's not 100%. Maybe it depends on how the game is played. Now, this might be the out for not having the best of the best, whomever is considered the best of the best in 2028. So if you don't have Patrick Mahomes and et cetera, you could say, well, it's flag football. It's different football. So that's where you might be able to get away with having, like you said, Joe Flacco out there. But say, well, but it's flag football. The dynamic of the game is a little bit different. Because you're obviously not going to be having, like, is Myles Garrett going to be playing in flag football?
Right.
I mean, it'd be fun to see him out there, but that doesn't make any sense.
Everybody wants all their favorite players out there until it maybe affects your favorite team.
Also that.
Because do we want Micah Parsons playing in it? Oh, that would be so cool. But then what happens if he gets hurt? Like you said, it's around July and August. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he's actually now going to miss the first half of the season because he got hurt playing flag football.
And Packers' chances for a Super Bowl that year are done, and now we're nearing the end of Parsons' time as a really good football player. And, okay, so now the Parsons trade is now viewed as a failure because of something that happened this year and what happened in a flag football demonstration sport at the Olympics.
And that's where I don't even think like the top college kids would do it because they're looking for their moolah and money and such.
They're getting paid down there.
Right.
So as long as it's not no. Like like I was saying a moment ago, I think I would be okay if not all the best are there because it's what makes the most sense for flag football as opposed to an end of like your first thought when you hear football players in the Olympics, your first thought is pick your starting 11 on offense and your starting 11 on defense. They got to be because that's regular football, not flag football.
Right.
So let's see who's there. As long as we don't get a rash of they're not permitted. Nah, I'm skipping out. I don't want to do that. That would be the bad thing.
I'll be curious for like upcoming big contracts if there's any clauses in these upcoming ones saying you're not playing the Olympics. Because obviously, the ones that have already been signed are obviously not in there.
Right.
But let's say Joe Burrow was a free agent. What if that was like, hey, we're going to give you this all-time top leading, paying quarterback, but then it's like the Ben Roethlisberger one, no more motorcycle riding.
Yep.
Are we going to see any of those for some of those?
I don't know.
Or is it going to be worded to where it's up to interpretation, and then it's going to be like a whole arbitration type of meeting?
Yeah. I would think Roger Goodell would look pretty sourly upon that.
Yeah.
Because this is part of the growing the NFL initiative.
Yep.
Roger Goodell does not want his top brands to commodify everyone, but he doesn't want his top brands to not take part in a major brand initiative.
Right.
Gosh, I'm using a lot of corporate speak, but that's what it is. Is you keep out the top players, you sign contracts. Roger Goodell's be like, that's not what we're doing as the NFL. That's going to be a problem. If someone does that could be an interesting debate. And I don't know who wins on that one.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's any rule that says you can't do that. But the Shield is pretty strong.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting thing to watch in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. All right. We got to take a quick break. Plenty more to get to here as we start to wrap up the third hour. Coming up after these quick words. NBA is still a little bit on their All-Star break. Bucks won't be back in action till Friday, but that hasn't simmered down the Giannis talk about what's he going to do and such. Well, Danny Green maybe taking a little bit of a different approach. I don't know if you saw the comments from Danny Green on ESPN's NBA Today the other day. He threw out a scenario that the Bucks should maybe explore. This is what he had to say, full-on quote. It's very calculated what he's saying, talking about Giannis. He knows what he's saying, but it's like Bobby said, Mr. Marks, it's day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month with him in Milwaukee, and they don't want to trade him. I wouldn't want to trade him either, so if you want to keep him, you've got to go out in the market and find somebody that can keep him there. If I'm the Bucks, I'm monitoring what the Clippers are doing with the Kawhi Leonard situation. If you can get a player like Kawhi or something similar to that, that could keep Giannis home and then also build around that group to make it a contender in the East. Here's my thing. I don't think Kawhi would want to go to Milwaukee. Remember how miserable he did win a championship, but he did not want to go to Toronto, and he's a West Coast guy. I almost feel like Kawhi's, hey, I've got my championships. I'm cool staying on the West Coast.
He's so mercurial. Who knows? Maybe he completely changes his mind, and I guess that's what you're hoping happens.
Right.
That's intriguing, the idea of, well, let's go back to essentially the Dame Lillard approach.
Yeah.
Bringing the big guy, and now that's going to get us leapt up to a championship, I guess.
And Kawhi will be 35 this offseason.
The other thing,
so.
like some of these names, it's a version of get KD, come on.
And to be fair, Kawhi is having a really good year.
He is, yeah. Did great at the All-Star round robin thing. He did quite well there. I know that's an exhibition, but he did quite well. Again, as much as it probably makes the most amount of sense, totally dispassionately to move on from him. Maybe just because I'm still seeing more. What could Giannis do? Like the talk is not really a surprise. Not gone away. But NBC had a story on the Lakers' plans.
Yeah,
Giannis is the Holy Grail. I'm starting to go against common sense and be like, screw y'all, Giannis, just stay.
Yeah,
stay as long as is possible. I mean, if he becomes an unrestricted free agent, fine, but just stay and just mess up everyone else who still thinks he does not deserve to be in Milwaukee. Because it's Milwaukee. But who else would be the guy you could go get?
and I feel like at some point, I don't know. Yes, I get championship and such, but I'd still maybe want to trend towards somebody younger. You know, like they've kind of done it this offseason and such, and I don't want them to get rid of a lot of their younger guys. Let's go back to having an old group of guys and such. Yeah.
Like, I have a fair amount of faith that maybe the draft will provide that player, and it's not necessarily going to be about the number one pick. I know to dip in a little bit to the whole tanking issue that's come up of late, but is it necessarily Peterson or DeBansa, the two guys that are probably most likely to be number one? Is it necessarily them? This is an overall good draft. Now, provided, again, John Horst doesn't decide, once again, to draft a project and make a 30-spot reach.
Right.
I mean, maybe you do get a guy that sparks pretty fast and pulls off like a VJ Edgecombe sort of situation where, okay, this guy's going to contribute really quickly. If you get the right other veteran, free agent, or acquisition, and that's where the Bucks could potentially be a contender next year. It's the best case scenario.
Yeah. Since you're leaving me at 9, I want to throw this one out there that, since we're talking about All-Star Game, and I know this wasn't WNBA, but I thought the Unrivaled 1v1 was fantastic. I would love to see the NBA do something like that for part of their All-Star festivities.
Yeah. Should that take the place of the dunk contest? Probably,
yeah. I think the dunk contest, I think we have literally done any type of dunk that is possible.
Yeah.
You can't. Until somebody goes all Happy Gilmore 2 and they snip a ligament. You haven't seen the movie, but that's how people get a long drive and that. Yeah. Until they snip a ligament and all of a sudden they can do like a somersault in the air and dunk. Stop it.
Or you do something totally different where it's like dunk after dunk after dunk, like it's happening.
Or if you're going to get the stars.
that. It has to be something other than here's three guys you probably never heard of. They're probably going to miss a bunch of dunks, and the ones that they make are going to be like, oh, okay, cool. I saw that 25 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. So replace it with the one-on-one. Now, how much would the players play in on that too? I mean, there are a lot of players that just say,
I would think for some, I know Giannis was asked about it, but I would think, okay, like when I was watching some of it for the women's, I mean, there's pride, I think, on the line a little bit.
Yeah.
Anybody who's played 1v1, block on the gym or on the blacktop, you want to beat that person in front of you, right? You don't want that person just beating you down and such. So, I mean, I'd be intrigued. I'd be excited to see a little bit of that.
I think the concern, and again, it's remarkable how much time sports media and us, I do this too, spend figuring out All-Star Weekend. It doesn't matter at all, really. But the latest Bill Simmons pod had Zach Lowe on. Had a really good discussion about that, but then also the overall issues of the NBA. Worth a listen, I would say. Not that they necessarily came up with a solution, but it gets you thinking at least. Part of the issue is a lot of players don't want to be embarrassed at the All-Star game.
Right.
And that's where you might have a lot that don't want to do a one-on-one because they don't want to be posterized. And like their pride really takes a hit. And then you'd think it wouldn't matter, but for a lot of them, it does. So you got both.
So they're scared.
Right.
Yeah.
But then that ties into the one-on-one and how that should work because they are that competitive. They want to win. But they're also afraid of losing.
Right.
It's one of a piece. So, I mean, all things
Throw
being,
some cojones and go 1v1.
Are
You
we
make
really
millions
going
of dollars?
Is that really going to be on your resume? Like if it's Cade Cunningham, I know nothing about Cade Cunningham's desires to do this or what, but let's just take a younger, big, up-and-coming star player. Yeah. If Cade Cunningham got smoked in a one-on-one, 15 years from now, maybe he's gotten a championship with the Pistons. Maybe he's got an MVP. Are we really going to go, yeah, but remember that one time? It's going to come up when we talk about all-star games. That's it.
Yeah,
That's not going to be in the resume.
The posterizers are always in the regular season games, right? Jordan over Ewing. Yeah. Like that stuff.
Hasn't like Ant or someone pretty big been posterized this season? Yeah. I don't remember. That's the point. Like, come on. We move on here.
Exactly.
If you win a championship, if you win an MVP, that's what matters.
Right. But I think 1v1 would be a lot of fun to watch.
I would definitely watch it more than the dunk contest. I'll tell you that.
Yep. Yeah.
For sure.
Throw a little Giannis versus LeBron or something like that.
I do like that the three-point contest seems to be getting even bigger next year, that there was this sense of, I'm going to take part.
I like what Dame said.
Yeah.
Him, Steph, Clay, Booker, and a couple other shooters. Like, get the names, get legit three-point shooters' names out there.
That works.
Do that. Yep.
Yes. Okay. For an exhibition, that works. Quick side note: do you think the Sunday game, the round robin thing, do you think that worked?
I think it was probably better.
Yeah.
Not still the greatest,
but better. Given the circumstances, I'm in the same boat.
I do think
I'll
if
take it.
Shea and Giannis would have played, Team World would have dominated.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe that next year.
Yep. All right, 3 in, 1 more to go. News updates. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, here we go. Final hour, final quarter on this Wednesday morning, making the turn Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to talk some, we'll get back to some more Packers talk here a little bit with the big news from last night that Rich Bisaccia has stepped down as head coach and, or not head coach, see? Head coach is getting me, you guys. Stepped down as assistant head coach and special teams coordinator for the Pack. So Matt LaFleur now looking for that new special teams coordinator. So we'll get back to that. Badgers falling last night to the Ohio State Buckeyes after a great week last week by the Wisconsin Badgers, and it vaulted them into the top 25, number 24 on the rankings. Now, probably going to be dropping out of the top 25 with that loss to Ohio State. So, but 5 more games left here for the regular season for the Wisconsin Badger men's basketball team. They've got Iowa coming up this weekend. We'll get back to some more baseball talk too. Mark Attanasio chatted with the media yesterday. Full squad workouts. We've got our first spring training game coming up on Saturday. So we'll go to what Matt, I'm struggling with this thing. Mark Attanasio had to say yesterday to the local media. So, again, nothing really earth-shattering and such, but I thought it was kind of a funny little nugget where, you know, when Caleb Durbin was traded, he got a phone call from Bud Selig saying, what are the guys saying? You know, what's kind of is essentially saying, what's going on? You know, what are you guys doing, really? But so we'll get to that here in a little bit as well in this final hour. Final call, too, for your Am I Wrongs? Your Mike's Star Market Am I Wrongs? Let me know. Best ones. I'll read up on the air. All right. So, you know, one thing, obviously we're really focused on the special teams coordinator aspects of Rich Bisaccia stepping down and, like, who's going to be the next Rich Bisaccia or next special teams coordinator to replace Rich Bisaccia. I don't know if this would actually be a thing or if this would be a job that LaFleur would look at. Is he going to look for another, quote, assistant head coach to add to the roster too? Like, is there going to be that? Is he going to be looking for 2 different coaches now, one for special teams coordinator? Because I don't think whoever he hires as special teams coordinator, this could just be me, but I don't think it would also come with the title of assistant head coach unless he's able to pry somebody away from a current team. I don't know. But I'd be curious, does he still want to add that other coach with the title of assistant head coach? You know, because Bisaccia was on the sideline helping with, you know, other decisions and such. And as we know, you know, you have LaFleur looking at the tablet when the defense is out on the field and that, with Gannon potentially calling the plays on the sideline. Does that alleviate that situation or that scenario where they need an assistant head coach? I don't know. I'm just throwing out different possibilities, different thoughts out there, because not only do you lose your special teams coordinator, you don't have your assistant head coach. And not every team has an assistant head coach. Okay, not every team has that. Some do. A lot of the, you know, coaches, maybe with younger staffs, have that. Rams, you know, just for comparison's sake, the Rams do have an assistant head coach. It's Aubrey Pleasant. He's the assistant head coach / pass game coordinator. And then they have their defensive coordinator, Chris Shula. So that would be something I'd be kind of curious if Matt LaFleur tries to find somebody to take over that assistant head coaching job too. But that was something I was kind of thinking about earlier on this morning, and maybe it's not just one coordinator he's looking for, but maybe another person. Maybe, and that's where I would like to see, okay, is there a veteran available out there? I don't know if it matters on what side of the ball and such, but maybe a veteran coach that's available that could come aboard and just be like that assistant head coach type of role. So, but, you know, there's names being floated out there, and I get it. You know, special teams coordinator doesn't, you know, the names attached to it, they don't have the same flair or the same popularity as maybe a potential defensive coordinator or a potential offensive coordinator. But I'll be curious if Matt LaFleur decides to go with a veteran special teams coordinator? Does he try to find somebody that's got years of experience, of coordinating experience? Does he go with maybe a younger option and give him a first-time crack at being a special teams coordinator? For that, you'd be looking at the assistant special teams coordinators across the league. There are some coordinators, veteran coordinators, who are available looking for jobs and such. But I don't know who would be or who would be at the top of that list. You kind of look at maybe for connections for Matt LaFleur, guys that maybe LaFleur knows. But again, he didn't know Bisaccia when he brought him on either. We kind of thought that was going to be the case with the defensive coordinator position with Raheem Morris and that. Not the case. Elected to go with Jonathan Gannon. So I think, we could kind of brush aside and trying to find the connections, friendships, if you will, with Matt LaFleur. You can maybe kind of brush those aside because some of those moves that he has made doesn't necessarily mean that he has had a relationship or a friendship with them. It's not to completely exonerate it, but he's at least looked elsewhere outside of that circle, right? That Shanahan circle or whatever circle he's had, coaching stops and such. But I think, granted, whoever they get as a coordinator, whoever they bring in as that coordinator, there's got to be a collective effort between the two. All right, we got a coordinator, but there's also got to be that commitment from the front office and from the general manager and such to, okay, we're going to add some resources to this. We're going to look at players. It is a thin line. How much do you direct or how much of your roster do you allocate towards special teams? Because then maybe that comes at the potential of taking a hit with depth elsewhere. It's a thin line that you have to try to manage. I also think it just takes the commitment from the players and it takes the commitment from the coaching to get those players to embrace playing special teams and just playing special teams better. Maybe just focusing on it more in the offseason during practice sessions and such. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see how quick of a turnaround this is going to be and seeing if Green Bay tries to pick up their offense or their special teams coordinator rather quickly here. And I guess don't discredit, does he go to the college ranks? He's already added a couple position coaches reportedly that are coming from the college ranks. Does he do that with his coordinator? I don't think we all have a good gauge. You've got people throwing out blogs and articles about some names, but would it surprise anybody if it's a name that you haven't heard? Wouldn't surprise me at all. Not at all. And I think, let me just double check, because they did lose one of their assistants on special teams. He is the new I keep wanting to say offense coordinator. He's the new special teams coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. They got one more technically listed under special teams. That's Corey Harkey, but he's special teams quality control. I don't think he would be up there. I could be wrong. Maybe. So Corey Harkey, this is his first season as the special teams quality control coach. He's this past year, he entered his fourth season as an NFL coach, having spent the past 3 seasons as the assistant special teams coach for the Buffalo Bills. During his 3 seasons in Buffalo, he was part of a staff that helped the Bills rank number 1 in the NFL over that span in average starting field position, number 1 league ranking, and number 5 ranking per True Media. Buffalo also led the NFL in field position margin. Got butter on the mind. Bills ranked 6th in the NFL from 2022 to 24 with an average of 10.9 yard punts per return. Buffalo's best 3-year mark since 2011 to 2013. I guess don't completely ignore that possibility. Maybe they just promote Corey Harkey to that spot. At first blush, when you see he's a quality control, but then he does have 3 years as an assistant special teams coach. So I feel like that one would probably come at a very fans probably would not like that one bit. I'm not putting anything out of the realm of possibility with this hire that's going to come from LaFleur. I'm not going to even try to predict it at this point. So, all right, we'll take a quick break. We'll get back to some more baseball talk here. Get to some Brewers chat as we are just days away from the first spring training game coming up here. So, what did Mark Attanasio have to say yesterday when he chatted with the media? Oh, he covered a lot of different topics and such. So we'll kind of revisit that. Nothing really earth-shattering in that, but still, whenever the owner does talk, you kind of pay attention to see what he does have to say and such. So we'll hit that up. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Sounds like we may be getting some snow after all this rain. Not sure how much, if it'll affect schools for tomorrow or anything like that. But it's just a good reminder that winter never really fully goes away in Wisconsin. So if there are one of those mornings where you're not quite sure if there's a delay or a school closing or such, always stay tuned to our website, sportstalk1051.com, for the WEAU 13 News closings and delays, brought to you by ServiceMaster and Hovland's. So just always, I know it's rain and snow's melting, it's been warm weather and such, but it is Wisconsin. We have seen it countless times before, changing on a dime. So it's always good just to double check maybe on those particular days for the latest school closings. Again, brought to you by Hovland's and ServiceMaster. All right, so Mark Attanasio yesterday chatted a bit with the media, a wide range of topics and such. And in the first hour, we kind of went through the Q&A he did with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. But go to Brewers.com, it's a little bit of a different approach, a little bit of a different kind of piece about what Matt Arnold or what Mark Attanasio had to say. And I just want to read some quotes and kind of get your thoughts on maybe the approach and how the Brewers have gone about things. And Mark Attanasio kind of compared it to how he has invested his investment firm within, investing in Wall Street for the last 35 years. Saying, quote, "You can't get too analytic and have too many inputs and lose the forest for the trees. I see this in my investment business. I have 35 years investing in Wall Street, and we have an exceptional track record over a long period of time because we do what I'm saying here. You somewhat stay in your lane, you know what you're good at, but you have to be open to what others are doing." As Adam McCalvey continues to say, so it is, Attanasio says, with the Brewers and analytics. They didn't lead hard in that direction as early as teams like the Rays and Dodgers, but they did beat a lot of other clubs. That helps explain how modest Milwaukee has MLB's fourth highest winning percentage since the start of 2017, trailing only the Dodgers, Astros, and Yankees. Quote, "We feel we have to get up this way every morning, that whatever the system is, however it looks like the cards are stacked against us, we're going to compete. We've done that for 21 years. So kind of a little bit of both in terms of analytics and such, but the comparison, and essentially what he was trying to say a little bit earlier too about 35 years investment in Wall Street, it goes back to, them not kind of going all in approach, right? Not the all in approach. Kind of operating under the philosophy that running a sound business and fielding a perennial contender rather than bouncing between extreme cycles of all in and rebuilding is the smart way to end a World Series drought. That's the approach, the mindset that they have, and it's clearly evident. We've seen that since Mark Attanasio has been owner with the Brewers and such. He also said, too, that other teams have taken notice of the Brewers' methods. Quote, "Being superstitious when you start to read about this team's way or that team's way and books are written about it, it's usually the beginning of the end. There's a lot of thought leadership in baseball. We're looked at as thought leaders, but you can get very much put in a box." Yeah, it's, again, I don't think it was nothing too like earth-shattering or groundbreaking or anything like that. It's nothing new that we have come to kind of know about how Mark Attanasio runs the franchise or the Brewers' mindsets into this thing too. So, and for anybody who wants Mark Attanasio to move on or sell the team, don't expect that anytime soon. A little bit here says, even Attanasio is occasionally surprised by a proposal from baseball ops and relies on his sons, Dan and Mike, to lead him beyond a player's surface line numbers. Someday, Mark Attanasio plans to pass control of the franchise to his sons. And while there is no timetable, MLB recently asked clubs to submit a succession plan. They are working on that now, Attanasio said. The Suns helped Dad process the Durbin trade, for example. Quote, maybe the hardest thing about Matt's job is he has to make hard decisions. The thing about this player is he has not only super performed above what they expected, but in a very tough NLCS against the Dodgers. He super performed there too, and he was a fan favorite all the way up to Commissioner Seelig. The easy decision is to just say, go as she goes, right? So, yeah. So again, don't expect Mark Attanasio to sell the team. I know a lot of people wanted it. They've kind of clamored for it. And that ain't in the cards. It's not in the cards. It's not in the cards. So, but all right. That's just kind of some of the comments from Mark Attanasio when he chatted with the media yesterday. But we got full squad workouts. Guys are in camp. Yelly was hitting bombs in BP and such. So, all right, let's get to the season, right? Let's get ready for the regular season. Let's get this thing going. Put them in bubble wrap, and here we go. But first spring training game you'll be able to catch on the radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM this weekend. But that's not even the biggest baseball news in the world. We talked about it a little bit last hour, but with Tony Clark resigning as the executive director of the Players Association, I'm really curious to see how this is going to affect any of the negotiations with with Major League Baseball, because we know it's going to be a tough one. There is a thought that we could see a potential work stoppage. For how long, that remains to be seen. But yeah, I feel worse right now that we are, I feel like we're heading more towards that possibility we're going to have a work stoppage now, because they're going to have to find a new executive director. They have to go through all this. Yes, they have interim ones in there. So I don't know. I don't have a good idea, or a good feeling about where this is kind of trending for Major League Baseball. And it stinks and it sucks, to be honest with you. So, but it is what it is at this point, I guess. Let's switch gears here for a little bit, just for basketball. So last night's Badgers, first game since taking down Michigan State on Friday. They're newly minted in the top 25. Confidence is feeling good. Just starting to wrap up the regular season. Only a few more weeks left. And you lose to Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's not a bad team. They're not an awful team. They're a bubble team. You go to their house. So, I mean, you're maybe going up against a desperate team looking for some nice wins to add to their resume. But you hope this loss doesn't kind of come back to bite Wisconsin in the butt. So, okay, I finally got the updated bracket from CBS Sports. Because I wanted to be curious to where this loss maybe knocked Wisconsin down a little bit. So, yeah, it did knock Wisconsin down to an 8 seed. This is CBS Sports' bracketology here. So I know Joel Lenardi had them as a 7, but I'm curious to see where this loss now to Ohio State kind of drops them down here. So if we look at, CBS Sports' bracketology, Wisconsin be an 8 seed taking on 9 seeded SMU. If they were to win, they would probably play UConn in the round of 32 to go to the Sweet 16. So I don't know. It feels like Wisconsin, if we look at these bracketologies and kind of look at everything, if it kind of goes status quo now, it feels like Wisconsin is going to be anywhere between a 7, 8, 9 seed when it comes to tournament time. Now, that could change a lot. It definitely could change in these final 5 games of the regular season, how they finish off this regular season. It could change in terms of how deep they get into the Big Ten Conference tournament. If they make a nice run, maybe even win that thing, then that probably moves them up a little bit more. But it seems like right now at Wisconsin, again, if it's status quo, you're looking anywhere from a 7, 8, 9. Honestly, yeah. I almost call me crazy, but I almost feel like a 10 seed would be better than an 8 or 9 seed because I feel like 10 seed you can beat that 7 seed, and then you're potentially going up against maybe a 2 seed in there. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Now you're just kind of picking and choosing here. I think it's going to be so matchup based. Wisconsin is playing like a team, like Wisconsin has done for how many years? I think our good friend Justice Cleveland has coined this term. Wisconsin can beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody. And there's no better definition of that than this Badger team this season. They have proven they can beat anybody, but they have also proven that they can lose to anybody. They have beaten 3 top 10 teams, and they have made things difficult on themselves going up against mid to lower level teams, losing to some of those mid teams. A lot of it has to do with if that outside shot isn't working, if that 3-point shot isn't working for the Badgers, it's going to be a long night. And last night was an example of that too. Just 7 of 26 from deep. 27%. It didn't help that Ohio State was making their threes. They shot over 50% from 3. 52 to be exact. And the big 3 from Wisconsin, I mean, you had Nick Boyd, 6 of 15 from the field. He was 0 for 4 from 3. You had Blackwell, 5 of 11 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. 14 points each. Nolan Winter gave you 10 points. Carrington came off the bench and was able to give you 20, and he was 5 of 12 from 3. So, yeah, that 3-point shot, not working last night. Greg Gard, I know, said after the game, kind of say they weren't aggressive from the beginning of the game throughout the entire game. Wisconsin, though, right now, they're still 6th in the Big Ten in standings. It sure seems like Michigan has, unless something really happens here, Michigan's probably going to get that 1 seed in the Big Ten Conference Tournament and finish as the regular season champs because Illinois is 2.5 games behind them. Nebraska and Purdue and Michigan State are 3.5 games from the top spot. Then you've got Wisconsin in sole possession of the 6th seed right now. They're 4.5 games back. And then you got Iowa, Ohio State, and UCLA that are 5.5 games back. And then Indiana's 6.5 games back. You're talking, I think a lot of the bracketologies have all those teams. Ohio State's still kind of first 4 outs category, very bubble-ish. Indiana's bubble-ish too. UCLA's mixed in there. But you're potentially looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 10 Big Ten teams in that tournament. I think what would be the worst thing for maybe a team like Wisconsin or maybe an Ohio State or UCLA is when they get to that Big Ten Conference tournament. Like if you're Ohio State, you probably don't want Indiana or UCLA winning that whole thing because then that takes away a berth for you, an at-large berth for you. Probably want one of the favorites to win that thing. All right, we got to take a quick break as we start to wrap up this Wednesday program. We'll be right back after these quick words. Really quick, back to the special teams coordinator thing for Green Bay. And I know I've mentioned this probably a few years ago. And this might be a little bit of outside the box thinking. I wouldn't be opposed if, like, Green Bay, and honestly, I'm surprised. I know some teams have dabbled into this, but I wouldn't be opposed if, like, Green Bay hired, all right, we have our special teams coordinator focusing on punt coverages, kick coverages, returns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But can we, like, maybe hire a kicking coach, just like specifically a coach that's going to work with our kicker and our punter? I don't know. Maybe because I feel like punters and kickers, maybe kickers more so than punters, but it's almost like a golf thing where you got to work on the angles. And golfers have, like, they got their swing coach and they got all this. But honestly, if you ever go to, like, a practice and such, I mean, they're off kind of doing their own thing in that. They're working, they're kicking off to the side during a game in the net. They're by themselves in that. I wouldn't be opposed. It's a little bit outside the box thinking, but honestly, I wouldn't be opposed if Green Bay, okay, we got our new special teams kicker, but we're going to bring in, this guy to just focus and work with the kickers and the punters and give them a little bit more extra time and give them a little bit more, extra attention to try to help out. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think outside the box a little bit. I know some have done, I think the Ravens had like a kicking consultant or something like that at one point, but I'm a little surprised that more teams haven't really done that. Like, here's the thing, okay? And this is just a very generic generalization, and, a lot of these former players do not want to be coaches. They don't want to be position coaches. It's a lot of dedicated time, and especially if they got, families and such, they move on from the game. It's, they want to be done with it. Some do want to get into coaching, but I think a lot of fans and a lot of people just assume that a player, just because they played, would want to be a coach or would make a good coach. So the person I'm about to say, I'm not saying like maybe he doesn't want to. But I think a guy like Mason Crosby, who kicked how many years inside Lambeau, and we hear these kickers talk about, the wind and the swirling winds inside Lambeau Field. But somebody who did it for a long time and at a high level at Lambeau Field of all places too, a veteran like that say, hey, bring you aboard here and maybe we can, you can focus on the kicking aspect. Because every side of the ball, right? I mean, here, am I wrong for thinking this? There you go. Am I wrong for thinking, let's maybe think outside the box here a little bit and let's bring in somebody to focus and just help on the kicking aspects? Because we have our offensive coordinators, but then you have your position coaches. Defensive coordinator, then you have your position coaches. Then you got special team coordinator who has to do the coverages, punts, kick, punting, holding, snapping, long snap, whatever. Maybe bring in somebody to help just work with the kickers. I don't know. But I feel like Mason Crosby, I know he's in the radio now too and such. And again, a lot of these players, they don't want to be coaching and that, but I feel like Mason Crosby, for all the years that he is kicked into Lambeau Field, he probably knows a little bit of something kicking inside there and in cold weather. Tap into those resources a little bit. What if you got, I don't know. That's just me just throwing out a blanket, generalized statement. I think outside the box a little bit. Because maybe some of these special teams coordinators, a lot of them, I don't think a lot of them are former kickers. I'd have to look, but I think a lot of them, might have played linebacker, but they were on special teams for coverage units and such. Why not bring in a specialist? Why not bring in somebody to, help out these kickers so they're not always trying to maybe do it themselves and such? Just my thoughts, just my soapbox, get on there sort of thing, and my Madden coaching thought of the day and such. So I don't. EC Ryan is the Silver Fox Mason? Is that who you're referring to? Get the Silver Fox to coach in Lambeau Field. So, why not? I think he's still around the state. I could be wrong, but yeah. All right. I know we got to take another break here before the top, but we don't have any picks really to get to here. So, but we'll go here a little bit longer. A couple more people. Yep. Okay. It was, Mason. Hey, okay. At least somebody else. Why not? Why not? Everybody else has their own position coaches. Stop playing the kickers. Maybe these kickers just need the sports psychologists. Stop playing mental games and getting in their head so much. I don't know. But they're always off by themselves doing something off to the side. It's usually the kicker and the punter and the long snapper, those three. Maybe get somebody to work with that group alone. Just my thoughts. A couple more texts that I forgot to get to earlier on. One texter said, hearing that Matt Arnold is going to be giving his kids the reins of the Brewers franchise when he's done worries me for the future of this team. Another texter had to say, nothing too earth-shattering from Matt Arnold, although I don't agree with his comparison of running a baseball team like he does with his investments on Wall Street. And then going back to special teams coordinator, somebody texted, have no idea who comes in as the new special teams coordinator, but I would hope that it's going to be a cohesive, I think that's supposed to say cohesive, a cohesive group between the new coach and the front office, that the front office gives them some players to work with. Another texter coming in here too. I am surprised that it took this long for the Packers to either move on from him or Rich Bisaccia to step down. Do you think it was a quote-unquote mutual decision? It didn't seem like it was a mutual decision. I know some people have been kind of running with that. I almost get the sense that maybe Bisaccia wanted to step down earlier, but the Packers maybe asked him to think about it. Because I feel like if it was a mutual decision, this might have happened earlier. So I almost get the sense that maybe it was Bisaccia, maybe, and this is just me off the top of my head, maybe it was Bisaccia wanting to step down earlier, but the Packers said, just hold off, wait a little bit, rethink it. And then he rethought it and still came to the same conclusion. That's why it's kind of late in the process. Again, that's just me. So, all right, we got to take our final break, and then we're going to wrap up things here this morning. And maybe we'll get to a couple predictions here and that. So, all right, quick break. We'll be right back. We only got about 7 minutes left to the top of the hour. There was another quote from Mark Attanasio yesterday that I wanted to get to and I forgot, but he was also asked about not adding a ton of payroll now or a ton of players now and really kind of just being non-existent free agency. This was from Lance Allen from CBS Sports 58. Quote, we have players at the right side of the left side of the aging curve. The best side. They're reaching their peak. You want to say peak is 28, whatever. A lot of guys are under 28 with the right, what you say, Lance, the right mix. A lot of the teams we compete with, big names. The guys are on the other side. Now, they're established players, so they're going to be tough to beat. But you know, the team, the way we assembled it, won the most games in the major leagues last year. We're not going to rest on our laurels. We know how hard it is to do that, but there's no reason not to be encouraged. So that was, again, Mark Attanasio to CBS 58 Lance Allen talking about answering a question essentially about not bringing in a ton of players in free agency and such. Going with the, younger, but let's be real too, cheaper route as well. So, and I think that's probably what comes, I think for a lot of fans, I don't want to speak for all fans, but I think that's where a lot of fans will come in and say, but it's the experience, it's those veteran players that help you out more when it comes to the playoffs. It's a formula right now for the Brewers that can get you to the playoffs, but is it the right formula that can win in the playoffs? I think that's probably the counter argument for a lot of Brewers fans out there when it comes to this franchise. And so far it hasn't, they've been to the postseason, they've been relevant and such, but they haven't, outside of last year going up against the Dodgers and then 18 making in the NLCS, but hasn't gone to the World Series yet. But remains to be seen if that still works today. So, in today's style. So, all right. How many minutes? I only got 5 minutes left to the top. All right. So, homework assignment for tomorrow, Thursday, right? It's your Takeover Thursday. So if you have a topic for tomorrow that you want to hit up or you want to throw out for the rest of the listeners out there, start sending them on over right now. All right, you can hit us up on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line with a quick text, 715-830-1912. So send those on over for our Takeover Thursday. Also on Thursday, enough is enough. All right, what's the sports narrative? What's the sports take? What's the sports thing out there where you're like, enough is enough? Enough is enough with still the honest talk about what he's going to do in the offseason, that sort of stuff. Looking for those. Also, we'll catch up again with Jake Boakes, Conservation Warden. I'll answer your question. He'll answer your question. So if you have any, you can always send those on over starting right now, too. I know with the warmer weather and such, it might have easily dampened some of the snowmobile trails and such, but probably maybe dampened for some of the little ice fishing and such, too. But if you do have a question for Jake, please send those on over to us, 715-830-1912. We'll get to those. And I'm going to do a little Inside the Hobby segments coming your way tomorrow as well. So just saw, where are we at? I just thought I saw Dominic, the return of live at-bats today in Brewers camp. So, all right, live at-bats. Aaron Ashby, DL Hall looks like they're going to be on the mound today for the Brewers. So, getting ahead of their first spring training game coming up this Saturday. So, what do we got for we got some games to pick for college basketball, including Marquette in action tonight. So let's do that. We got a few games. We got number 20. Arkansas taking on number 25, Alabama. I'm gonna go Alabama. Let's do, how about, oh boy, slim pickings here a little bit. Number 23, BYU taking on Arizona, number 4, Arizona. Man, maybe earlier in the season, this would have, and BYU is still ranked in the top 25, but I'm going to go Arizona for this one. And they're favored by 12.5. So St. John's, number 17, St. John's taking on Marquette in Milwaukee. I'm going to go St. John's. And then let's do, you got Illinois in there taking on USC. I'm going to go Illinois for that one. Vanderbilt taking on Missouri. I'll take Vandy. And then Kansas taking on Oklahoma State. I'll go with the Jayhawks for that pick too. So, all right, those are your picks. Yeah, you got Creighton versus UConn. I'm going to go UConn in there too. I'm just kind of looking at some of the ranked matchups and such. So, all right, those are your picks for tonight. So, all right, come on. Okay, so again, homework assignment. Give me your topics for tomorrow for our Takeover Thursday. What's a topic we should hit up? What's an item that we should discuss with the fellow listeners? Thursdays are your opportunities to send over those topics where you can act like a producer. All right, so I want some good ones. Think outside the box too. All right, doesn't necessarily have to be something that's going on right now. Could be something you're like, hey, what do you think is the best Brewers player of the 90s? I don't know. I'm just throwing some random stuff out there. All right, have a little fun with this. Have some fun. Think of some topics. Think of multiple ones to throw at us. All right, this is your chance. I want to hear from you tomorrow. So that's your homework assignment, okay? Along with your enough is enough. I know you got some. So please send those on over. And along with those questions for Jake, if you have any hunting, fishing, trapping related questions for our DNR warden buddy. All right. Okay, shot clock's going to cut me off here right about now. There you go. Have a good rest of your day. Maybe be mindful of the sky. If I don't know if I don't think it started to snow yet, but if it does and you got to travel this afternoon, be safe. All right. Be careful out there. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. Same place, same time tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. We'll chat with you then.